Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Boston School Committee. I'm Chairperson Jerry Robinson. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask my colleagues to please unmute and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Because this is a remote meeting, I'll ask Ms. Sullivan to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Alkins? Ms. Anis? Ophelia Anis? Thank you. Mr. Cardet Hernandez?
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Lopera?
Present.
Mr. Mehta? Ms. Polanco Garcia?
Present.
Mr. Tran? Mr. O'Neill? Ms. Robinson?
Present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Tonight's session is being shared live on Zoom. It will be broadcast on Boston City TV and posted on the school committee's webpage and on YouTube. The recording will be available in all of the BPS languages. Tonight's meeting documents are posted on the committee's webpage, bostonpublicsschools.org/school-committee, under the June 21st meeting link. The meeting documents have been translated into all of the major BPS languages. Any translations that are not ready prior to the start of the meeting will be posted as soon as they are finalized. The committee is pleased to offer live, simultaneous interpretation in Spanish, Haitian Creole, Cabovariano, Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language. The interpretation feature has been activated. Click the globe icon at the bottom of your screen to select your language preference. I'd like to remind everyone to speak at a slower pace to assist our interpreters. Thank you to everyone who signed up for public comment. Sign up for public comment closed today at 4:30 p.m. Please make sure you are signed into Zoom under the same name you used to sign up for public comment. You can use the Zoom tools to rename yourself so that the committee staff will be able to recognize you when it comes time to call on you. I want to welcome our alternative student representative, Ophelia Anis, who is filling in for Diego Mehta tonight. Welcome, Ophelia. We're delighted to have you with us. Before we get started, I would like to share a few updates. At our last meeting, the committee heard public testimony from a number of people asking the committee to make a statement in support of educators crafting curricula that challenge students to think critically. Since then, I've had an opportunity to meet with some of the speakers and learn more about their concerns. We had a very productive conversation, and I will keep the committee and the community updated as these conversations continue. I also want to provide a brief update on the Madison Park Technical Vocational High School admissions policy. You will recall that on May 24th, the superintendent's team presented a proposal for a new admissions policy for Madison Park that meets the state's requirement for voc tech schools. Committee members raised concern that the proposed policy has the potential to create unintentional barriers for our students and families. We've asked the admissions team to revisit the policy and make adjustments to simplify the application process while still ensuring that students know what Madison Park offers and that they want to attend a vocational technical high school. The team will engage with stakeholders over the summer and then bring a revised policy back to the school committee in September for a vote prior to the state's October 1st deadline. Before we begin our official business, I want to offer school committee member Lorena LaPera the floor to share some news with the committee and the general public. Ms. LaPera?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to share an update that impacts this governing body. Today will be my last school committee meeting as I'm stepping down from the school committee seat effective June 30th. Though there is no cause for alarm, I won't be on the committee, but I won't be going far. I'm excited to share that I'll be serving as the Vice President for Advancement and External Relations with Advestors. And as my fellow board members and BPS staff know, Advestors is one of the most important partners to the district in supporting arts expansion, math, and career pathways for our young people. They also continue to celebrate schools and their important gains. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be joining such an incredible institution in the city of Boston. My role with Advestors is a big one, and I'm excited to be putting my time and energy behind it because I know their work pushes and also supports the district every single day. Since my first job at Social Latina, I have been committed to supporting educational opportunities for students and families, and my commitment has remained the same in my role as a school committee member. I think it is important to state that being a school committee member requires endless energy, mental and physical fortitude, and time. And just as in parenthood, being a member of this body means you're always on. I have 2 small children, and I really hope they're not listening right now because they call themselves big kids, but they're 5 and 9, and they still enjoy spending time with me, which I hear changes. So I'm holding on to that. I only have so many hours in my day and only so many evenings in my week, and I need to spend them with my kids fully engaged in our family activities. And so at this point, I have to respect that serving on this committee is no longer a sustainable part of my life. I do want to take a few moments just to acknowledge some folks, starting with member Polanco Garcia, since we joined at the same time, and so we're committee buddies. Rafa, as a Latina, it has been awe-inspiring to watch you push this body and this city and how it engages with Spanish-speaking families. So, mil gracias por tu fuerza y tu liderazgo. Many thanks for your strength and leadership. I want to thank the other members who I know care deeply about this district and devote countless hours beyond these meetings to learning and representing different communities as best we can. Thank you for being such great thought partners. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Chair Robinson for your leadership and support throughout my time on the committee. I am personally grateful for the friendship we have built and for the guidance and understanding on what it's like to be a parent to young children while serving. I know I've shared this with you, but I'm keeping your number on speed dial to continue to share any thoughts and concerns. I also want to take a moment just to thank Mayor Wu and Mayor Janey for the appointment. I hope that by your estimation, you can see that I've always engaged with our young people and families at the center. And I know I'll continue to partner with the city on how to continue to move our city forward. I also have to thank our Superintendent Skipper. Thank you for jumping back into the district. Your leadership has been profoundly felt. I appreciate your persistence in looking under every hood and getting to fully understand what is working and what needs to change. And I'm deeply inspired by your humility and your ability to admit shortcomings and work to make things right. Last to the staff. So staff will always answer my call and who always address my many questions, whether in this forum or in others. And for those who show up for our students every single day, I'm incredibly grateful for your dedication and your work. Also deeply grateful for the families who I've engaged with throughout this process, who I've learned from. Thank you for the lessons and for advocating for all of our children. It has been an incredible honor and privilege to serve in this capacity, and just thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. LaPera, and thank you for your service to our students and families. Since joining the committee in 2021, Ms. LaPera has been an invaluable member of the committee, providing a critical parent voice. I'll always be grateful to Ms. LaPera for serving as co-chair of the search committee that brought Superintendent Skipper back to BPS. She always puts students and families at the center, and our district is stronger because of her work. I'll now open it up to my fellow committee members for comments. Ms. Polanco Garcia.
Gracias, Madam Chair. Cuando fui nombrada con Lorena Lopera, con la señora Lopera, realmente para mí, yo no pude haber tenido mejor compañera en ese momento para recibir este honor de ser parte de este cuerpo de gobernanza.
When I was selected for this important job, I could not have a better partner to be able to serve in this very important school committee and government body.
Como latina, mamá, hispanohablante, te felicito por todo lo que aprendí de ti, todo lo que diste, porque de verdad sé que diste mucho y seguirás dando al comité.
I have to congratulate you and appreciate everything you've been doing as a mother, and I do have the certainty that you will continue working on behalf of our families. And I do say this as a person who's Latina, as a man, as a Hispanic that I am as well.
Fuiste muy especial conmigo, a pesar de mi vulnerabilidad con el lenguaje. Siempre estuviste apoyándome. Siempre cuando un intérprete no decía lo que debía decir, tú lo decías para mí. Y eso lo aprecio de verdad mucho.
You've been very special, instrumental. You've been helping me all the time. You've been conscious of my vulnerabilities. And when the interpreter did not have the right way to say, you were always there willing to support me.
Ha sido esa brisa suave, maravillosa, que ha estado con nosotros en este cuerpo de gobernanza. No puedo esperar a ver el futuro que te espera, porque sé que es muy brillante y promisorio.
You've been in this incredible body of governance. I cannot wait to see that bright future that for sure you will have. You've been a very soft and wonderful breeze that had impacted all of us.
Te deseo lo mejor de lo mejor, y que este nuevo camino que vas a emprender sirva para que muchos puedan ver tu ejemplo, una latina, hispanohablante, mamá, que siempre lo mencionabas en las reuniones, ha sido una mamá de BPS, y eso vale mucho, y te deseo lo mejor de lo mejor.
I wish you the very, very best. You've been an example, and I wish you your very best in this road you're about to embark. And you've been epitomizing that as a Latina, as a mom, as a member, and I wish you the very best. I can't wait to see you succeeding in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. LaPera, thank you for your time on the committee. I have learned a lot working with you and have deeply appreciated the insights you've shared with me. We've talked a lot. I particularly appreciate, as the chair said, your role as co-chair of the search committee. We spent a lot of time together and I learned a lot from you. So I thank you for your time. I recognize how hard it must be to make this decision, and yet putting your family and your new position work-wise, I think the world of Edvesters, as you know, and so this is a win for Edvesters to have you join them, and it's a win for you to be joining a wonderful organization that is such a great partner with the district. So I'm glad you're not going far. We'll continue to be working together quite a bit, and thank you for always taking my calls and for teaching me. So best of luck at Advestas.
Mr. Cadet Hernandez.
Member Lopera, much of what I needed to say to you, I've said to you privately, and so we'll keep that conversation private. But I think at its core is just thank you. Thank you for just everything you've done on this body and really pushing the conversation, a willingness to be brave and ask questions that are hard and continue to probe when the answers don't feel right or don't make sense. And then just as a colleague and a friend now, I feel really lucky. I met Member Lopera right when I moved to Boston, when you were the executive director at Latinos for Education. And it was one of the first organizations I wanted to connect with when I moved to the city. And there was just like a willingness to help me understand the complexity of Boston and the landscape. And you welcomed me with open arms in a town that's like not always known for being so warm to new folks. And so thank you. And maybe even more important, thank you for the sort of constant history lessons that have allowed me to understand the sort of institutional knowledge that's necessary to make meaning of the sort of current state of our system, and then to also push it to be better. And so I'm just really thankful for you, and I will see you all the time, because you know you're going to be at Advestors and I'm on the board at Advestors, and so you won't be too far away. But I'm really thankful for everything you've done here and privately in our own relationship, and I'm just really thankful that you're going to be serving young people in Boston in a new and different way. We're lucky to have you, and we're all really lucky to have gotten the opportunity to work with you here. So thank you, and good luck.
Okay. Thank you again, Ms. Lopera. We're very grateful for your service and wish you all the best in your next chapter. Thanks. Oh, sorry, Mary. I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Superintendent.
That's
Go ahead.
okay. I wanted to echo that I will miss you. I have found that you think from a mom and a parent, but also a professional lens. And so you have pushed particularly around issues on for multilingual learners, always being a champion, and certainly like on our facilities work, because you know its direct impact to families. And so I've very much appreciated how you think deeply and you ask deep questions about topics that we know are so important to the communities we serve. Also, I thank you for trusting us with your children every day as a parent. I do not take that lightly. And I know as a mom that is a trust. I also think you're absolutely right that ages 5 and 9, you still got that window when they still want to do things with you, but you're right, as they get older, that changes. And so I hope you really find that space and are able to really enjoy that time, with your children. And I'm excited in your new capacity that I know this won't be goodbye. It'll just be a transition to a different type of work with you, but always with you caring deeply about the district and about the children and the families in it. So it's been my honor to be superintendent while you've been school committee member.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
All right. Mr. Cadet Hernandez, your hand is still raised. No, you're done. All righty. Again, Ms. Lopera, thank you so very much. We'll begin with the approval of minutes. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 7th, 2023 school committee meeting as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alkins, Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
The minutes are approved unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. We'll begin tonight with a special recognition for a talented group of graduating seniors who are ending their terms with Boston Student Advisory Council, also known as BSAC. These students have proven to be true leaders and powerful advocates for their peers. We are so proud of them, and while they will be greatly missed, we know that they'll be going on to do great things for the Boston community. Each of you will be receiving in the mail a citation from the school committee and Superintendent Skipper. When I call your name, please turn on your camera and tell us briefly what neighborhood you're from and your plans for next year. From the Horace Mann School of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Muna Abunor. Muna? Is the interpreter?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
What, may I ask, what were the two things that you asked again?
What neighborhood you're from and what your plans are for next year.
I live in West Roxbury. And my plans for next year is to go to Gallaudet University, which is a deaf university in Washington, D.C., to become a social worker.
Thank you. Okay. Next, from Boston Community Leadership Academy, Hala Ahmed. Is Hala with us this evening? He's not here. Well, thank you to Hala. From Boston Latin Academy, Allah Al-Ramahi Allah. If I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, please excuse me and please correct me when you come on.
Yeah, so my name is Ala Al-Rahi, and I am from East Boston and I'm going to Northeastern for biology.
Thank you. From Boston Community Leadership Academy, Lizelis Cordero Sanchez. Not here. Thank you. From Boston, also from Boston Leadership Academy, Lila Fortunato. Also not here. From Boston International High School, Serafina Jean. Welcome, Serafina.
Hi, I'm Serafina, and I'm from Hyde Park. And next year, I plan to go to Clark University to study political science and probably minor in psychology.
Wonderful. And finally, from Boston Community Leadership Academy, Kassam Saeed.
Hello. Sorry.
Are you with us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hello. My name is Kasim Saeed, and I'm going to Salem State University next year, study marketing, and I live in East Boston.
Can you say again where you're going next year?
Salem State University.
Salem State. Okay. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you. And I also want to thank Denise Rory, Director of the Office of Youth Leadership, for supporting our student leaders. Denise, please turn on your camera so that we can recognize you. Thank you. Congratulations to the BSAC class of 2023. Thank you to all for all your advocacy and leadership, and we can't wait to see what you all do next. Have a wonderful summer. We'll move on to the superintendent's report, which will include an update on transformation schools. I present to you our superintendent, Mary Skipper.
Thank you, Chair Robinson, and good evening to the committee. First, a big congratulations to all of our seniors from BSAC on their next chapter, those that were here and those that weren't. We couldn't be more proud of you for the service that you gave and advocacy that you've given as part of being a part of BSAC. And I'm really happy that we were able to celebrate you as you go on to your next chapter. I'm sure you will do many great things. I just wanted to start, as I know many of you are aware from both what we have sent as a district and then from the media. We shared an update with the families at 3 of our high schools, English, Burke, and Brighton. Then an adult woman enrolled as a student used false identification and paperwork. As I stated yesterday, I'm deeply troubled that an adult would breach the trust of our school communities by posing as a student. This was a case, as we unravel it, of extremely sophisticated fraud. As soon as BPS personnel identified irregularities with the student's enrollment, the case was referred to Boston Police, who are now undertaking a criminal investigation. At this time, I cannot comment further as this remains an ongoing investigation, but I do want to publicly thank BPS staff who caught this and quickly acted, as well as the Boston Police for launching an immediate investigation. We'll provide additional updates if relevant information becomes available through the investigation. And as we do with any major incident, we will continue to review all of our systems and processes to make sure that what we did was correct. In terms of the end of the school year, this is an exciting, bittersweet time as we say goodbye to the school year and we say hello to the summer. As we close it out, we're in the process of finalizing all of our plans for the summer. The teams worked really hard to ensure a productive, fun summer of learning and earning. While registration for summer will continue through the actual first week of programming, I'm excited about how the enrollment is shaping up. A few bright spots from it. In our 5th quarter, elective opportunities, we have more than 5,690 students registered. Last year, we started with 4,100. So I think a lot of our recruitment and getting the word out and thanking parents for registering their students nice and early, that's really giving us a much bigger group of students to enjoy our summer programming. Our extended school year program is anticipated roughly around 4,800 students who will be in the programming. And we currently have nearly 3,000 students enrolled in high school credit recovery and 300 in the exam school initiative. So overall, our numbers are up and we will exceed the goals that we set. 14 programs will also offer more inclusive opportunities for our students. These programs are both school and partner-led. Examples are Lee STEAM Academy, Lee STEAM Ahead, which is a partner that embraces young scholars who are inventors and scientists who want to create change in their communities. Another partner is Fresh Films, which is offering students experiences on the art of filmmaking, producing short films, music videos, documentaries, and much more, and really providing experiences with film equipment, such as cameras, boom mics, lighting, different kinds of lighting apparatus, and audio recording devices. All of these inclusion opportunities are co-located in schools where ESY is being offered so that we can benefit, so that the students who are attending can benefit with on-site supports. As we expand beyond phase 1, we'll be engaging more partners who are already supporting students with disabilities to create more inclusive opportunities for our students. This is a commitment that we have made to our parents with students with disabilities. As we heard, they wanted access to more and more summer opportunity. I also want to give a shout out to our partners who are offering earning opportunities this summer. This is exceptionally important for our high school students. City of Boston, State Street, and ABCD all offer summer earning opportunities to any student who resides in Boston. And our longstanding collaboration with the Private Industry Council, which we call PIC, has this year led to more than 2,000 BPS students placed in earning opportunities around the city. And again, big thanks to the mayor and the Mayor Jobs campaign, as we try to get more and more of our students opportunities to earn. We're really excited for the summer. It's an important time, and we know that students that participate in summer programming and do it regularly, they go on and they have a much smoother transition into the school year. They achieve at higher rates, and overall, it's just healthy opportunities for our students. For parents who haven't registered, we still have slots, and so we'll look forward all the way up to that first week of programming of enrolling our students. Quick update on MassCore. The policy for MassCore was passed last year to ensure that we have the same standards and expectations across all of our high schools to prepare our students for life and career. We are committed to utilizing MassCore graduation requirements as a tool toward higher achievement for all BPS students. This year has been a year of learning for the district and for the schools, as our current ninth graders, the class of 2026, are the first class that will graduate under the new policy. We do not yet have grades from our first year students. It's obviously end of the year, and that is wrapping up. But once the school year is over and all the grades have been entered, we'll provide the school committee with an update next fall on the progress toward their graduation requirements. We anticipate a need to discuss some potential alternative pathways to graduation for certain groups of students, specifically for our multilingual learners with disabilities, our multilingual learners, our students with disabilities, and our students in alternative education. But before bringing anything to you, we want to review the data from this year. Our teams are currently assessing how we can create graduation pathways that align with the goal of higher achievement for our graduates and are also reflective of the different educational needs for many of our students. A few bright spots. There are many bright spots. This is actually one of my favorite times of year as we celebrate all of the good things that have happened. Higher Ground held its celebration to showcase the successful efforts of the Family-Led Stability Initiative. This is a unique collective impact initiative that's focused on reducing student homelessness for Boston Public Schools. The event also raised awareness and support for the issue of student homelessness and support for the initiative's promise and approach. The event marked Higher Ground's impact on providing a support to 500 families, which was really a significant milestone over the course of the year. I had the chance to meet with many of the partners and speak at the event, and also to see one of my former students who was a speaker at the event. So just congratulations to Higher Ground and to all of the Project Hope and all of the other partners for the work that they do in our schools every day. I also had the pleasure of being on hand to surprise Alex Munoz, who received the Life Changer of the Year award. This is an award that's given from the National Life Group. He was one of 15 winners out of almost 900 applicants. Alex is, I call him Alex. He was a former student of mine. Alex has been at the Edison K-8 in Brighton for over 6 years. He's an amazing before school educator, ABA during the school day, co-director of the Young Queen and King Scholar Program at the Edison. He works 11-hour days. He goes over and above for every student. He stays late for pickup. He coaches basketball. He's an academic mentor, a transformation mentor. He's a tutor. He's been working in the emotionally impaired program at the Edison for years now, and he deals with students who sometimes, in behavior will bolt or fight or yell to release, and he works with students on IEPs every day. He always has a warm smile on his face, and his students and his co-workers each gave up and gave testimony for why he was so deserving of the award. Alex was a TBA grad, and what I'm just so proud was to see his deep connection with every student. He knelt down, he listened as they thanked him, and everybody said you could just see that connection. And to know that Alex, still very young in his career, is committed to making a difference in BPS, and particularly for students at the Edison School, and he's giving all his talent, just kind of made the end of my year. In terms of graduations, at the high school level, this is the fun time, you know, when we say goodbye to the class of 2023, and just really applaud them for all of their hard work. Also to the staff who have just made all those graduations possible. There are students getting ready to graduate right up until the end, and students trying to make sure, staff trying to make sure that students are getting across the stage. I had the pleasure of attending many of the graduations, MMAs, Margarita Muniz's, Tech Boston's, New Missions, Binkas. Many of them were held at White Stadium, which was extra special, and in the outdoors. And it was just really wonderful to see how, as students crossed the stage, embracing staff, shaking hands, so proud of getting that BPS diploma, and knowing that they're going out to change the world, and to do so many wonderful things. So congratulations, class of 2023. I would also like to just share my reflections a bit on end of year accomplishments as we close out this year. And for me, my first year here, academic year at BPS in the capacity of superintendent. So first, I'm extremely proud of our network model. The regional model clearly is having impact. We've put so much effort this year into improving it, listening to the field, and making really concrete changes so that at day's end, it can be a better service to our principals, and school leaders, to our staffs, and to our students. We also welcomed a new team and really mapped out an organizational chart that I think is going to help serve BPS in very positive ways in the years to come. I could not be more proud of the team we've assembled. They represent BPS in so many different ways, through experience, through race, through language, through being BPS students or being BPS parents or being part of the BPS in the past. And so I'm just very proud and hopeful and optimistic of the work that is yet to come with that team. We are 119 schools. We have over 12,000 employees, but really my goal is to move us as one district, and that is our shared goal as a team. One team addressing every classroom, every student, every school, and really unlocking the potential of our students, which we know there's so much. One thing I'm most proud of this year is, in terms of the investments to the regional model, we've really been able to better support, and this is evidenced by principal feedback, but we've really been able to better support our schools and really maximize the central offices or district support to the school communities. Through the regional structure, our school superintendents have organized teams of central office coaches and operational staff to provide support to their regions of schools every day. And, we surveyed school leaders at the beginning, and we then have surveyed them since to ask them what their experience with the regional network has been. And they said that, this year that they saw 80% of the school leaders surveyed feel that they have a clear understanding of how their regional teams and liaisons operate and can support their quality school plans. And this was for us, very much a goal of ours to see that improvement and have it be very much focused on the support of the QSIPs. For our transformation schools, we have committed to ensuring that they have additional support beyond the regional model from our transformation office. And I would like to share a brief update on some of the emerging data points as part of our SIP commitment to quarterly progress monitoring. So the practices such as close review of the school 90-day plans and ongoing quarterly instructional rounds, these are tools that have helped to really maintain a steady focus on curriculum and classroom instructional practices. As you know, we've closely monitored data throughout the year, and we presented it to you a couple times, particularly in the areas of instruction, school climate, and attendance. And some of our end of year data is available, and we can clearly see signs of progress in these metrics. On the attendance front, while there's still a lot of improvement, to be made here for sure, 26 of the 28 transformation schools showed improved attendance in comparison to last year. And so we consider that a success. Overall, transformation schools have reduced chronic absenteeism by about 5 percentage points this year. And, again, we have a long way to go, but this shows that we're moving in the right direction and that supports are taking hold. The teacher climate surveys show improvement at transformation schools in 6 out of 7 ratings in school leadership, feedback, coaching, and central office effectiveness when you compare them to non-transformation schools. And you can see evidence of improving conditions in some of the sample survey questions provided in your slides. The student climate surveys show similar ratings across school types for sense of belonging and student engagement, but show a need for improvement and focus on our part in students' sense of safety in the transformation schools. The student class feedback survey indicates that the majority of students who attend transformation schools feel they are held to high expectations by their teacher. This is equivalent to the district results. And as we wait for the end of the year student assessment data, we anticipate some areas of progress and look forward to an even more intensive focus on classroom practice and student learning next year. Overall, indicators of progress show that our strategy and support are working. To accelerate improvement, we look forward to further aligning and strengthening our classroom level instructional coaching as an area of focus in transformation schools next year. We will continue to provide quarterly updates to you on progress and growth in our transformation schools. We're also committed to ensuring students across the district have the support they need. BPS has seen an increase in the number of students served through our academic mentoring program, with over 300 students in grades 6 to 12 participating. We also continue to provide permanent housing for our families experiencing homelessness through our partnership with Boston Housing Authority and partners like Higher Ground. Together, we also continue to expand opportunities for our secondary school students through the launch of our high school plan. This year at 5 BPS high schools, we enrolled students into 9 distinct early college pathways. We also announced the launch of year 13 at Fenway High School with UMass Boston, giving the students an additional full year of college courses, college level courses, debt-free as they transition to college and accelerate toward a degree. And then similarly at Charlestown High School, we announced that deep partnership with Bunker Hill to do a very similar approach, which is to allow the Charlestown High School students, particularly in the career pathways that they have laid out, to be able to start to assemble those college courses and credits up to the first year of college. Working with our union partners, we launched inclusion planning teams at over 20 schools this year. And these planning teams are really critical to developing and implementing more inclusive opportunities for students. We've also worked with the union and our school leaders to develop a plan for implementation at every school with a focus on K0 to K2, 7th and 9th grade for the following school year, 24-25. We've also made deep investments to expand access to native language programming, and we're beginning to plan to add more programming in the upcoming school years, and there will be more on that. As we continue to focus on equitable literacy, we've made an investment in high quality instructional materials that are vetted and required at every school. And we've added in 30 additional centrally deployed reading interventionists to support our students, recognizing how critical a strong literacy foundation is. In transportation, we've continued to make progress in implementing system-wide improvements, including a focus on hiring to address bus driver and monitor staffing shortages. And these were things that plagued us, particularly at the beginning of the year. As of earlier this month, TransDev is fully staffed with bus drivers, fully staffed. TransDev also has more than 30 drivers still in training. So that means we will overstaff, and has implemented their in-house CDL training program to ensure that for the start of the school year, we are in fact fully staffed with drivers. And this will be a critical difference from last year to this, and from this year to next. We also hired over 170 bus monitors. Member Polanco Garcia, big shout out to her in helping us to do the first fair. But we've hired over 170 of the bus monitors this past year, and we continue to focus on monitoring hiring in order to address any remaining monitor shortages. We've also closed out a number of our collective bargaining contracts this year. Again, I thank this body for its patience with this. We're now up to date with almost all of the contracts. And really, that's something that hasn't happened in years. As we know, some of these contracts were out for 5, 6 years, and we've already begun planning for the new negotiation rounds. Lastly, we've done a lot of great work with our student support team. Quick example, we have 65 students from middle and high school grades that are in training to be peer mediators. And we see this as a wonderful program that we're going to be able to continue to expand and to roll out, that will help with situations of conflict in schools where peers can come in and help to support their peers. This reduces conflict, this reduces fights, this reduces arguments. And we really see that as one example in our youth opportunities area that's going to lead to positive change within our schools. I could go on, but I really wanted to just give you a few of the things that I'm really proud of. There are many, because I think our team has worked incredibly hard to do as much as possible in this academic year. I think the foundation we're laying is a strong foundation for many good things and great things to come in BPS, but this foundation work is work that had to be done. I'm committed to doing that work. The team is committed, and this is really just the beginning. It's my honor to serve this district. I'm grateful for the opportunity, as I've said from the start, and we will continue to work with you as the policymakers for this district, where we can make BPS the district that we're proud of for every single one of our students to attend. So that's going to conclude my report. I do, Chair, want to make one acknowledgement before the final word there. So Denise Snyder is someone that I have worked with. She's our chief of family and community advancement, and she is somebody I worked with early in my career, and then for many, many years, and then had the privilege to work as I've returned. She's retiring this year, and I really wanted to just say she is somebody I think of when I think of a career well served. I think of Denise for her leadership, her care, her passion for our families, for really putting her heart into all of the work, and just a tireless worker. She's a parent, been a parent herself for many years, and she carries that lens and her work ethic into everything she does BPS with that lens. It's always with intention and with care and consideration for families and parents. And we have really been blessed to have her in BPS for so many years. And I have felt blessed to work with her. So I just wish her all the best on her retirement. It's well-deserved. And we see her off with great thanks and gratitude.
Thank you. Denise, you want to say a few words?
Thank you. There are not a lot of words for me to say. I have to say, though, that this has been honestly the honor of a lifetime to come back to Boston, to complete my career, to be with the families in my own neighborhood. I have lived here for 31 years in the same house, worked in BPS so many of those years, served so many families in so many capacities. I've learned something every step of the way, and I've learned something from everyone I've worked with. And as I retire and move to sunny California, I will take all of that with me. And I hold everyone here in such high regard. And honestly, Superintendent, it's just such an honor to have served with you. I'm thrilled you're back to serve the district, and it's been an honor to work with the school committee. I'm wishing you all a very bright future, because I know what it means for all of our kids and families. So again, thank you for the shout out. It was unexpected. It's been a day of unexpected surprises. I guess that's redundant, but thank you very much.
And thank you for all the work that you've done. Great. I'll now open it up to colleagues for questions, comments. This is on the superintendent's report, and anything else you'd like to. Mr. Cardet Hernandez.
I guess I'll go first. Thank you so much for the report. I have a few questions. I guess we can start with the report on the update on transformation schools. I guess I don't know where to start. Is there any data around outcomes that we can talk about? And it doesn't have to even be end of year outcomes, but just like trends that we're seeing.
Yeah, so I think Executive Director Sabin, we can share some of the ongoing monitoring that we're doing.
Yes, hi, thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, everybody. So what I'll say is we are scouring all available data, looking for patterns that are meaningful. And the end of year MAP data, which is in assessment in literacy and math at all grade levels, is what we're looking at right now. And I think I would generalize by saying we see lots of bright spots in individual classrooms and even grade levels. We are not yet seeing whole schools that are moving in unison toward high growth and high achievement. And our goal is to learn from the bright spots and examine them in detail and study and address any challenges within the areas of need. So we really have a classroom by classroom look at achievement in math and literacy. And we also have a lot of observational data from the rounds. But what's challenging is that the patterns are not simple and we're still making sense of them. The positive is there are many, many bright spots. The challenge is high need students need a string of high growth years, as people know, to really reach high achievement, and that's our goal. And we're, as the superintendent mentioned, our focus next year is to hone in on the instructional coaching at the classroom level to further strengthen the areas of high achievement and to apply our learning in the areas of need. We are putting together more comprehensive presentations that will dive into this in more detail, but the information is just released, so we're just starting that process.
Copy. Thank you so much for that. And just to set the table, how many transformation schools currently exist right now?
There are 30 schools in the category of transformation school. 4 of them are now above the 10th percentile in achievement, but we're cautious about exiting because there's a loss of some resources that go with it that we are not prepared to take away yet.
Is it possible to then see, and I don't know how we tier schools, but of the 30, you know, this presentation gave us a sort of one size fits all, everyone's growing and these sort of culture domains and very small sort of downward trends in other ones, but 30 is a big number. And so, you know, like, I'm happy we had the presentation, but like, it doesn't give us much information around the state of play for schools, nor how we're looking at them categorically. And so, yeah, I guess I'm struggling to even formulate a question because I just, there's like so much we don't know based on this, but like, are schools in tiers? Is there how many exist in the sort of bottom quadrant that we are the most concerned about? How many show promising practice that we're really excited about and we see acceleration? And it will lead me to a next question, but I can't, from this, I can't even begin to understand sort of what is the sort of state of play at in its sum based on the parts that we're looking at. You know what I mean? Like,
So I wish I could give you a simpler answer. And I don't think I can, because we're looking carefully at data in the 3 priority areas of attendance, school climate, and student achievement. And we look at depth of all 3 of those. And that makes tiering them much more complicated. Because what if a school has wonderful climate and the parent, staff, and student surveys come back in the top quadrant of the whole district, but the student achievement in math is in the bottom quadrant and the attendance is in the middle?
I mean, we
How
could
do we
look at
think
all,
about that?
yeah, we could look at all 3 of them. You know,
That's what-
we could have a conversation about all 3 and then talk about where schools are performing and then look at schools that are showing promising practice in 3 of those 3 sort of categories, or in 2 of the 3 categories, or only in 1, or in none of them. But I
Yeah.
think we're leaving today, not, you know, like at least I don't have a picture of where any school is based on.
I think that Executive Director Saban and the team are going to construct a memo once the end of the years are fully vetted that will have some of what you're asking for. I do think it's important to, it might even be important to have like a further conversation so that we can potentially add something additional to what we were planning to do to be able to address Member Hernandez's thinking about the.
Yeah, and I'm a simple guy. So like, it could be as simple as, these are the 3 domains we're looking at, and telling me, you know, like green, red, yellow, like this is where we think folks are in terms of progress in each of those things. And I think it could be pretty easy to look at. One school is in green in 3 of them, or in 2 of them, or 1 of them, and one school is in red in all 3. I think that's a very helpful way.
Yeah, that's great. That's great feedback. And I think Executive Director Saban can take that back to the team. And then as we get the end of the years and do that calculation, we can present it graphically like that.
And then just one more, thank you so much. And then one more question here. What is the longest a school currently has been in transformation status?
So I think Monica Hogan might want to weigh in, and also has the best history. But this is a relatively new status that was created just before COVID. So many of the schools, I believe, have been in that status since 2019. The 2010 turnaround declaration is really the origin of this. And there are a small number of schools that have been in that category since 2010.
Great. Maybe in the, oh, sorry, maybe in the presentation, it would, to be able to sort of like flag, right? Like a 2019 status, or like a carryover from one of the 2010, from the 2010 designation of turnaround.
Yes.
As well as those that have exited.
And yeah, of course, let's celebrate that. Okay, I'm out of time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. LaPera?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the information that was shared. Similar in line of thinking as Member Cardet Hernandez, I'm wondering how, I guess one curiosity of mine is, what does the staffing, I guess, prioritization look like for schools that are transformation schools? Is there staffing prioritization? I know we were challenged with some vacancies this year, and so I'm just trying to figure out how or if we've reconciled any prospective vacancies in those schools that clearly are in more need.
Superintendent, I'm happy to speak to that if you
Oh, certainly. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Executive Director. Go ahead.
So the Transformation Office and the Office of Human Capital have a very close partnership around this staffing challenge. And we've been meeting weekly together to strategize and problem solve. And it's a hard labor market, as we all know, but we are tracking the hiring data daily. And I'm pleased to say that at the moment, the transformation schools are actually running about 3 percentage points ahead of the rest of the district in the fill rate, which was not the case previously. So a lot of hard work is going into this. At the moment of all vacancies, this is not just teachers, but paraprofessionals and so on, administrators. The transformation schools are at 72% hired right now. And I think the rest of the district may be at about 70 or 69%. So there's a long way to go, but we're confident that we're well ahead of last year. And we're particularly confident that the supports given to the very high need schools are paying off and they're doing a great job. So we're making steady progress each day.
And how are we also, that's great to hear. Are we also looking at how prospective vacancies could be impacting this year's impact data? Like when you're doing your data analysis, is that something you're taking into account and then being more aggressive for how we think about staffing and recruiting, and also honestly condensing classrooms for the future?
What I'll say within transformation schools is that we do know that one feature of certain schools early in an improvement process is a lot of churn of teachers, and that's not a healthy process. And so we're working very hard to stabilize that. We don't have an analysis yet of classroom by classroom achievement set with the seniority level of the teacher. That's probably something we could do, but we haven't gotten to that level of detail yet. To the broader questions, I'll have to defer that to the superintendent.
No, I think these are good questions, and this will be one of the slices of data that we'll take a look at as we start to get the end of the years across district, is to look at the impact of temporary staffing, substitute, and fill rate. So that is something. What I will say is we are in much better shape right now than we were this time last year relative to the staffing piece. And there's a very targeted focus both on our recruitment team, but also working with our educators who are on any kind of a waiver to be able to get their certifications. The state has continued to allow some flexibility, and I think across K-12, that's very welcomed. But then we're also just really going school by school with the regional SUPs to see which schools need the most staffing support right now. And that's much earlier than was able to have happened last year. So we'll be happy to report out in August what that actually looks like for school committee, but we'll be slicing the data as well to your point, Ms. Laperna, that what is that impact on a vacancy or on somebody that has temporary status.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Polanco Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, y thank you, Superintendent, por el reporte. En la oficina multicultural y multilingüe, hace ya bastantes meses que está tratando de encontrar un nuevo director.
Thank you very much, Madam Superintendent, for the report, and thank you very much, Madam President. The Office of Multicultural and Multilingual Students, for a while, they have been looking for a director.
Entonces, me gustaría saber qué actualización puede proveernos sobre esta búsqueda de este personal tan importante para que los programas también puedan avanzar.
So I was wondering what type of update could you provide regarding this important position of the search of a person of this important position, so we could keep moving forward. Any updates regarding the search of a director?
Right. So so I'll actually ask Deputy Chen to come on, as she might have more detailed, but we've been following closely both our filling of the Chief of Special Education as well as the Chief of Multilingual and multicultural education. And we are still in the process of the kind of final vetting of candidates. So I don't think we're ready to announce that or to name in any way, but we are toward the end of that process. Dr. Chen, I don't know if you have anything more specific that you'd like to add to it.
Sure. We are in some final stages of vetting final candidates, but also really want to appreciate both EL Task Force and SPEDPAC members who were part of the process to help us and gave us very good feedback on the candidates that we interviewed for both the Chief of Specialized Services and the Chief of Multilingual and Multicultural Education.
And we agree that, Member Polanco Garcia, we agree these are pivotal positions. And there's been quite a bit of churn in both of those positions for the last 3 to 4 to 5 years. So stabilizing both departments has been a key for us. We did actually use a recruiter for the positions. In talking to my colleagues from around the country of big districts, these are 2 of the hardest positions to find. And so, you know, we're hopeful that in the process we've used, that we will come to the conclusion of the process successfully.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Mr. O'Neill, and then Mr. Cardet Hernandez. Mr. O'Neill, you're muted.
Yes, of course. Thank you. In the interest of time, I was going to ask the exact same question. So I thank Member Cardet Hernandez and Ms. Lapero for asking the questions. I think the map data, you know, was of keen interest on the transformation schools and getting more data. Superintendent, I do want to ask, what concerns do you have about the, because you talked about bright spots and some you've seen, and we do look forward to getting the student achievement data and particularly broken out, but what concerns do you have about the transformation schools? What are some of the big challenges you feel that we're still facing there? And how are you attacking that?
Yeah, so I think, thank you, I appreciate that question. So I think it's a few things, right? I think one is, what is the right plan for those schools that exit for continued support? I think this is a conversation that frankly is happening statewide. I think it's a conversation that, you know, we've engaged with DESE on and done a lot of deep thinking, because, you know, it is, once the school exits, some of the autonomy that they lose, some of the resource that they lose are the very things that may have enabled them to be able to make the progress, right? So that's kind of one. I think, secondly, to Executive Director Sabin's point, we have to move beyond bright spots to a systemic solution, right? Where we see the data flip and we reach those tipping points where it's traction of practice that's actually cohesive practice in the school, as opposed to individual classrooms where you see it. And that does take time, but we also know that students really benefit in the second, third year of that happening. So continuing that momentum, increasing that momentum, those are going to be things in particular that we need to watch for as we're building best practice and scaffolding that. We have to also make sure we continue to support the best practice to go even deeper and further. I think being able across our wonderfully unique and district that has lots of variation and autonomy, it's coming up with threads that are common or universal to the transformation schools as a whole. And so that will take some real looking at the data, having conversations with leaders, seeing what's happening at the classroom level to be able to pop those, so that those are things that we start to really invest in, because we believe they are universal strategy. So those are a few of the things that right now for me with transformation, I think, you know, we want to kind of keep the foot on the pedal around. And I applaud Mike and the team. I think they've done such a good job. The school leaders are the first ones to say it from the transformation schools, the level of support that they have felt And there is something to be said about our ability to focus specifically on the types of issues. The churn rate that Mike talked about, that's a concern. I think it's always going to be a concern when we see instability of staffing. I think for us as a district, we, at the school leader level, much less churn. It'll remain to be seen, but so far at the teacher level, that appears to be the same. The more stable we can keep the staff means that we have traction with what we invest in the staff. And so I think at the transformation school, since we're putting so much effort into development and PD and capacity building, if that leaves because the person leaves, then that doesn't benefit that group of schools. So that will be something else that we'll talk about in terms of how we pay attention and give resource to that issue.
Thank you. And I appreciate you and Director Saban talking about the challenges of schools exiting that status because of what they lose. It's not just autonomy, it's also funding and attention.
Right.
And there is a sad history in this district of schools that get extra support and attention and improve, and then that falls by the wayside and the improvements slip off. And some schools, unfortunately, we can talk about multiple cycles of that. And so sensitivity of that is really appreciated. I do want to also, just in the interest of my time left, also thank Ms. Snyder for her work. And thank you for calling that out. And also congratulate the graduates. This is the fun time of year. Like you, I attended a lot of high school graduates. I think I was at 5 this year, and love seeing a variety of our schools in a variety of parts of the city, and appreciate the school leaders inviting me. And seeing our graduates and their families celebrate, and the teachers celebrate the success of the students that they've worked so hard to reach that level is great, as well as our students that are moving on from K-6 and K-8 into high school, et cetera. There were ceremonies across the city the past few weeks. So a nice time of year, and glad to be able to celebrate student success.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Cardet Hernandez.
I have so many more transformation school questions, but I'm actually gonna move off of it because I don't think we really got a presentation that is substantive enough for us to have like a real conversation. I'm saying that with so much respect, but just being really real. And I'm probably hot coming off of the exam school conversation and the amount of time we've spent talking about 3 schools that are some of our highest performing in the district. And it just feels like a sort of superficial conversation about a 30 that none have even been named. We haven't even named one. We haven't even said a single school's name around a success, or probably even more importantly, like where we're seeing the greatest concern. And so, just like as a person, as a consumer, I'm finding that part disappointing. I guess the second piece I think it brings me to is around, I think what probably a bunch of us read this week or last week around sort of the high school process and the disparities between high schools in our city, and the piece in the Globe that highlighted 2 schools specifically and outlined just the really different floor that kids have access to. I guess I'm curious on 2 levels, just sort of like initial thoughts, because it was I think a pretty important long piece. And it came after we were having conversations about the need to talk about high schools. And it also comes after we made this big announcement around like our vision for high schools. And so, yeah, I'm just sort of like, I'm curious sort of where that landed and if it is impacting any sort of system change that we should be thinking about or talking about.
So, I mean, I think one of the things we talked about sort of from the start is there are inequities clearly between the high schools. This is the result of many things like over the course of time, but I think the 4 pillars that we laid out was an attempt to say, let's try to get these 4 things to a point where there's some level of equity within the schools. I have lots of thoughts about the article. I think one of the things that didn't kind of get addressed as much as it should have in the article is, you know, what I would call all source funding, right? Or all resource funding, which is that some of our schools have foundations, some of our schools have foundation boards, and there's in some cases a considerable amount of money that comes in through them that actually can continue in some cases to fuel disparity. I think it's one of the things that as we take on the work next year of the reimagining funding, we have to figure out how to consider. Because I think in the what obviously highlighted even more the two schools was that one has that and the other does not. And so, you know, one is looking at sort of what is perpetuated through weighted student formula and what inequities are there. Part of this is also like the dollars follow the students, but when you have concentrations or smaller enrollment, there becomes difficult choices in what the dollars can afford. And I think that's one of the things we're trying to take on in thinking about the high schools and the size of the high schools and where that economy of scale does matter, of being able to give full elective or full career pathway as opposed to having to pick or choose like one or two of those. When you get into the economy of scale of a couple thousand kids, that's a very different scale. And so you're able to offer just a lot more just because the economy of scale affords you to. So there's just, I see it from so many different layers and details. But I think the most important thing is these are active conversations that we are having. The secondary office, and part of why we're building the secondary office up, is to be able to take some of these things on. So when it comes to the academic rigor, when it comes to early college and career, you know, you had one announcement for Fenway and one announcement for Charlestown. And I think the idea was to be able to ensure that each school at the high school level, the secondary level, is going to be able to have that early college opportunity for students and career pathways for students. I think similarly on the buildings, we already know that some schools, you know, some of the high schools are in very small buildings or buildings that don't allow them to actually expand programming in the ways that they need to. And other schools have access to big buildings that have lots of opportunities to bring partners in and to do different kinds of things. So these are the areas, these pillars are the ones that secondary office and the work with the communities and the work with the high school staff are going to be important to be had over the next several years. And we've already begun that work.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you and a recognition, obviously, like one, we're not like snapping our fingers and this is changing. And the inequity predates you. Some of it, we like have to be sober about, like, is by design. Like anytime we've put in, you know, the history of screening kids in schools was to create segregation and to further perpetuate inequities and to make sure some kids were taken care of and others didn't get the same experience. When before your time, the former superintendent talked about the quality guarantee. And I hate that word. It sounds like we're selling chicken or something, but like the idea that like there would be these like things, these experiences that would happen universally. What never happened from that, and I'm just curious where you are in your team, was like an actual numerical commitment to what that experience would look like. Like as again, like as a parent consumer, I want to know that no matter what high school my kid goes to, there's at least 5 AP options. Or no matter what high school I go to, there's at least 3 language options. There may be more, but like that I'm going to get the floor versus like, you know, what we do with like big, you know, multi-syllabic words and equity and equity and equity. It's like, literally tell me stuff and things like, what is the guarantee? What do I get at any school I go to? There will be at least 3 sports teams. There will be at least, you know.
Yeah, so there's so the vision of the graduate is work that's been being done both with a working group of kind of mixed community and then and also the secondary office. And so that is queued up for the fall to present to you guys as a way to be able to see exactly what we're thinking for what should high school graduates have access to and be able to say they experienced. The numerical piece has to be part of that reimagining, right? As we think about the way it is right now and weighted student formula, those things aren't considered in that way. And so that's going to be a big piece of why we're undertaking looking at the funding formula in a different way, because if we don't, then we're going to have the same outcome.
Yeah, it's like the programmatic floor. And like,
Right.
obviously, I think this, at least me, but I'm sure the rest of the body, like I'm committed to a conversation if you tell me this is the programmatic floor. This is actually what it takes to operate our school system. And the funding formula does these other sort of additive things. But what the article highlighted for me was like, there isn't a floor. It's like, you can go to a decent, a decent sized school and have one language option. And it's not about that another school has 200 options. It's just like, what do we actually believe is the right amount?
Yeah, that's exactly the work, right? That is beginning to happen, and you will get some of the glimpse of that come fall. I will say that 7 years ago, we had started really doing some of that work at the high school level of reimagining high school. And then I think just with a lot of changes, that work got kind of lost in the translation.
Yeah.
But it's critical. And I think it's actually not as it has been, which is secondary is 9 to 12. But now we really have the wonderful opportunity to vision 7 to 12. And that comes with it lots of other opportunities for what happens in that 7th and 8th and 9th grade year.
And I'm out of time, but in the interim, I think I will become annoying about this issue. In the interim, like while we are building that system of all the things we want and the things we believe young people deserve, we still have this major problem. And that's also what this piece highlighted for me, which is families having accurate information around what a current school has to offer. And I'm not saying the tool that was in the Globe that highlighted and you could sort of scroll down and see what schools had was even accurate. I don't know, I haven't assessed it, but I do know that like that is the type of tool, or Boston School Finder tool, right? Like that is the type of school that we can't rely on an external organization or company to build. But it clearly doesn't seem that hard to build. We have the data, and families need to have the information so they can make informed decisions. I'm a parent and I wouldn't know how to find out how many sports teams the school has. We don't even have a printed directory. Like, how do you know, if my kid loves anime, how do I know if a school has an anime club? And I can't be lug around the city going and asking every school if there's an anime club or if they are Japanese. Like, there has to be a way for families to make informed choices so their kid doesn't end up at a school that they're like, this wasn't right. And
That's right. And those
conversation.
Those things change regularly, right? And so I think it's also finding ways that you create the human connection beyond just you can Google and say, or you can use the school finder and be able to say, oh, this school has these things. One, the thing has to be updated on a regular basis. But two, often the parent is really looking for that like human conversation about the school, to visit it, to be able to see it.
I will just say, and I'm really out of time, but like, yes and no. Like, I want the human conversation, sure. Sometimes I just want to read the menu.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and then I can talk to the waiter and I can be like, is the chicken parm good? But like, I actually just want to know what's on the menu. Give me the menu, and then we can have a conversation if it's right.
Yep.
And we don't even have a menu yet. And that's part of what that article highlighted for me. It's like, we have to build something for families to make informed choices. Or we're going to keep having kids ending up at Madison Park or somewhere else where they're like, this wasn't the right place for me. And I think it's actually one of the most urgent things, particularly as we're trying to transform the system.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I have a slightly different question, but follows that up. When we started the conversation earlier tonight about MassCore, my question is, how are we doing in outfitting schools to make sure that they are adding on those courses and other things that are required so that students have full access to MassCore?
Yeah, so one of the things that we'll prepare for you as we get the end of the years and we get the grades is all of that, right? It's what percentage in each of the types of courses that have, we've reached. I know there's been some of the particular areas that we've struggled with have been things like the electives in particular, for instance, with art. And we're definitely kind of hitting a ceiling in some of these, and it has to do with the high school schedule. So one of the things that we're trying to do is work, to give some options, like to give some ideas to the high schools around how the schedule can more easily accommodate elective, and what can count as elective too. And I do think as we get into the early college work and the career work, that some of these things will also be able to kind of cross count and open up some flexibility. So we'll include all of that, Chair, with the work once the grades come in, and we can put it all into one memo.
Yeah, I know that many other districts across the Commonwealth have been doing, using MassCore for years. How do we have mentors or other partners that we can look to who have had to deal with some of these same things that could help our schools sort of break the logjam of getting schedules, et cetera, so that our students can more quickly take advantage of the opportunities?
Yeah, so Ted Lombardi, I don't know if Ted wants to weigh in on this just in terms of the partnership piece, because that may be a little bit more historical over the last couple of years. What I will say is one of the things that we definitely have to look at, that I mentioned in my notes, is this idea that while MassCore is a great template, we do need to acknowledge that the learning needs of particular populations may need us to look at this differently. And so that is kind of the deep work that we're sort of looking at, that we can see sometimes in the delta of it, of what is not yet at MassCore, is a satisfying MassCore recommendation. And so that will be, I think, in part two, is us to provide with you what we think some of the groups are. I kind of outlined them a little bit. I think alternative ed is definitely one that we are going to want to both make an option for our students, but also recognize that part of entering alt ed is generally because there's been some off-track component in sequencing of high school classes. So, I think this will be in part what we report out on, along with recommendations. But Ted, I don't know, are there particular partners right now that with MassCore, Catherine and others are working on?
Yeah, not necessarily. Thank you, Superintendent, and thanks for the question. I think this is really important work, and it's actually probably more longitudinal than we think of it right now, than we're thinking of it right now, in that we did go through a process going before this year in the spring of 22, going into this year, to allow schools to request positions that they needed to fulfill MassCore requirements for that incoming 9th grade class. So we did make a lot of adjustments to student staffing coming into this year. In terms of going forward, like the superintendent said, there's a lot of assessment that has to be done after this first year to see where our students are, and to see where those gaps are, because those are the years now where they're going to be getting into electives and into the physical education requirements in their sophomore, junior, and senior year. So I think we're fairly well situated as it stands to be able to get students to the finish line. But like the superintendent said, those alternative ed is certainly one area where, we want to be additive to students' experience. We don't want to just make the diploma the finish line for alt ed. We want to provide them work-based experiences and some, life experiences as part of that programming. So we want to be able to, be a little bit more adaptive in how we have students reach graduation requirements in that setting when they're coming in at, overage and undercredited. So that's the kind of thing we're going to want to talk about in the fall when we have a little clearer data as to how to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. My other question, well, it's really a comment about the whole issue with transformational schools. And we get to that point where we talk about they're about to exit and we're going to take away resources versus when are we going to shift our thinking, not just for the transformation schools, but for all schools, that often what we are offering as part of the transformation experience to build to the success is what the school needed in the first place. And so instead of thinking it's an infusion of resources to fix a problem, when do we begin to think of this is what it takes to deliver the education to the students, and it becomes our normalness around funding and not something that is, additive and then taken away. And I feel like, is that not our responsibility of rethinking, as part of this whole rethinking the funding of schools, to be honest with ourselves about the needs our students have And we talk about, we're gonna give every student what they need. But we don't say we're gonna give them what they need for a while and then maybe not later. You know, if that's what we truly mean, what will it take for all of us to rip off the Band-Aid and really look at the funding and the resources that are really, at the end of the day, helping our kids to be successful, but to sustain that success.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, one of the things that's sort of happened with the ESSER dollars is, for the first time, right, public education is being funded at a level that actually starts to meet student need. But I think these are the questions in the reimagining as we look at it. And I don't know if Chief Cooter, I didn't call you in the first time, but I don't know if you want to just kind of give a glimpse around the reimagining funding project. But these are the exact questions, Chair, that we're going to grapple with as part of that.
Thank you, Superintendent. I'm always happy to talk about the Reimagine School Funding Project because it is our opportunity to talk about not just the sort of the floor of the minimum funding for schools, but to talk about what we want to see in exactly the questions, Mr. Cardenas, you mentioned when you said, what are the minimums we want to see at every high school? What are the minimums we want to see at every elementary school? And so from a timing perspective, we have convened a public group. The steering committee has met, and there's a principal advisory group and a community engagement group that have been meeting to set the sort of principles and guardrails of the project. And then we'll come back to you and the public in the fall with some different versions and recommendations going to FY25 planning. So it's a really important conversation. It is something that we're using ESSER funding to be able to do. And I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be an opportunity for us as a community to revisit our overall funding mechanism and set the course for the next 10 years of allocations to schools.
Okay, thank you. Look forward to having that continued conversation. Thank you all. And if there's no further questions, I'll now entertain a motion to receive the superintendent's report. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Dr. Alkins. Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
The report is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Before we move on to general public comment, I want to acknowledge that many people are signed up to speak tonight of the proposal to build a new facility for the O'Brien School on the West Roxbury campus. I want to remind everyone that this is a proposal and we are just at the beginning of a community engagement process. The school committee takes very seriously our responsibility to consider this proposal, those in support and those against. We have to ask ourselves what's the right thing to do for our children, and that this must be at the center of all of our decisions for all of our students. I'll now turn it over to Ms. Sullivan for public comments.
Thank you, Chair. The public comment period is an opportunity for parents, caregivers, students, and other concerned parties to make brief presentations to the school committee on pertinent school issues. Questions on specific school matters are not answered at this time, but are referred to the superintendent for a later response. Questions on specific policy matters are not answered at this time, but may be the subject of later discussion by the committee. We have 56 speakers this evening. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak, and I'll remind you when you have 30 seconds remaining. If your remarks are longer than 2 minutes, please email your comments for distribution to the committee. The time that an interpreter uses for English interpretation will not be deducted from a speaker's allotted time. We will pause the timer while the testimony is interpreted into English. Speakers may not reassign their time to others. Large groups addressing the same topic are encouraged to consolidate their remarks or choose a spokesperson to provide testimony. Please state your name, affiliation, and what neighborhood you are from before you begin. Please direct your comments to the chair and refrain from addressing individual school committee members or district staff. When I call your name, please raise your hand virtually in Zoom. Also, please make sure that you're signed into Zoom with the same name that you used to sign up for public comments. That will allow us to identify you when it's your turn to testify. We'll begin this evening with Chris Denning, Paulina Vasquez, Karen Olivets, David Lewis, Alma Forbes, and Orlando Parilla. If you could please raise your hands virtually. Chris Denning.
Good evening. My name is Chris Denning. I serve as co-chair of the governing board for the BCLA McCormick School. I'm also the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs and an Associate Professor in the College of Education and Human Development at UMass Boston. I'll be representing the Dorchester community. I'd like to thank the school committee and Superintendent Skipper this evening for listening to concerns expressed by the BCLA McCormick committee, including the students, families, and staff, and the BCLA McCormick School Governing Board. We sent a letter to Superintendent Skipper and the Boston School Committee on April 14th and received a response from Superintendent Skipper on May 4th. While we appreciate the response from the superintendent and her commitment to continuing to complete all of the needed renovations at the school, we are worried about the pace of the project and that critical upgrades may not be completed by the start of school next fall. The merger of two schools to form BCLA McCormick 712 Pilot School was approved in 2019, but we're still lacking some of the basic foundations required for a fully functioning school. This includes completion of previously approved upgrades and the creation of adequate classroom space at the previous McCormick Middle School to house all students in grades 7 through 12. Next year, our rising 12th grade students were told that they will not be able to stay at the, that they will need to stay at the old BCLA school, and they will be the only class there. In addition, the current updated McCormick Middle School is not ready to house high school students and doesn't feel like a high school. One example of an immediate concern is that the lockers are too small for high school students. Therefore, we come tonight to present our case and to read a copy of our original letter. Our key ask tonight is that we hope that you will be able to provide us with a clearly articulated written assurance that the work we outline in the letter can be completed prior to the start of the 23-24 school year. Our specific requests are all outlined in the letter we sent and we'll read this evening. Thank you so much for your time tonight and your commitment to the students and families in the Boston Public Schools.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Paulina Vasquez, and I'll invite our Spanish interpreter to support Paulina.
Adelante, Paulina.
Ok, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Paulina Vázquez. Soy madre de la escuela BCLA McCormick. Voy a dar inicio a la carta enviada a la superintendente el 14 de abril del 2023. Estimada.
Hold on, disculpe. Sí.
Sorry.
Okay, my name is Paulina Vasquez, and I'm from the BCLA McCormick, and I'm going to read the letter that we sent to the superintendent in April 14th, and the letter goes, empiece.
Okay. Dice, estimada superintendente Skipper, nos dirigimos a usted como la Junta de Gobierno de la Escuela Piloto BCLA McCormick, grado 712, en nombre de todos nuestros estudiantes, familias, personal y miembros de la comunidad. Buscamos garantías de actualizaciones oportunas de nuestras instalaciones.
¿Puede esperar, por favor? Sí, lo hace como frases por frases. Se lo agradecería.
Perfecto.
Gracias. The letter goes that, dear Superintendent Skipper, we are writing you from the BCLA 7th to 12th grade in the name of all the students, in the name of the families and the staff. we are asking you to assure us or to guarantee us. Me quedé donde dice que nos garantiza. Adelante.
Garantías de actualizaciones oportunas de nuestras instalaciones e inversiones en nuestra infraestructura en las fases restantes de la fusión.
We want you to reply or tell us that you guarantee the updates on the investments in our infrastructure.
Sigo. Para brindarles a nuestros estudiantes y personal un edificio del siglo XXI y hacer que nuestra escuela sea competitiva y sostenible para el futuro.
Because we want to give the students a classroom or a building that is aligned with this century, 2021 century. And we want the school to be competent and que sea competente, ¿qué más?
Competitiva y sostenible para el futuro.
And sustainable for the future.
Okay. La escuela intermedia John W. McCormack y la escuela secundaria piloto de la Academia de Liderazgo Comunitario de Boston, BCLA, fueron aprobadas en 2019 como una fusión que atendería a los grados 7-12.
The middle school and also the BCLA from 7 to 12. They were talked about merging those schools, and it was approved in 2019.
Okay. Desde entonces, han habido muchos cambios en los planes y varias promesas incumplidas en el camino, lo que resultó en que los estudiantes de secundaria se mudaran a un edificio que aún no es adecuado para satisfacer sus necesidades.
30 seconds.
Since then, there have been many changes and many plans and false promises. And some of the students, the high school students, have been sent to classrooms or a building that is not adequate to satisfy their needs.
Sabemos que han sido unos años desafiantes con cambios en el liderazgo a nivel escolar, distrital y municipal, así como la interrupción y la incertidumbre de la pandemia.
We know that we have had some challenging years with the different changes in the district and in the city, and also with the uncertainty of the pandemic.
Ahora que contamos con un nuevo liderazgo, tenemos una esperanza renovada de que la ciudad de Boston y las escuelas públicas de Boston trabajen con nosotros para brindar una escuela del siglo XXI en la que nuestra comunidad pueda prosperar.
Now that we have a new leadership, we are hoping that they can help us to renovate when in partnership with the city and BPS to work with us and be able to provide us a classroom or a building that is a classroom from this century.
Thank you, Paulina.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Oh, excuse me. I understand our next speaker is going to continue the testimony.
Oh, lo siento, dice que la otra persona va a seguir con en la carta donde usted se quedó.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Our next speaker is Karen Olivets.
Good evening. My name is Karen Olovitz. I'm from South Boston. I'm a parent of a rising 8th grader at the BCLA McCormick. We acknowledge and appreciate the work that has been completed to renovate spaces to develop new science labs and a life skills room. We also want to acknowledge the planning and the work that has begun for additional renovations for school year 2023-2024. However, due to recent history culminating in the physical merger of the two campuses being delayed, our school committee understandably has some concerns about the merger plans and pending facilities upgrades beyond what has already taken place. We are seeking assurances on the scope and timeline of these plans with the understanding that many of the necessary upgrades will require the coordination of multiple BPS departments, substantial funding, contractor bids, and scheduling the work around the school day and the academic calendar, all of which could produce further delays. We are eager to avoid another year during which we are not fully prepared to execute this consolidation of both campuses, and a year where the Dorchester campus is not adequately updated to meet the needs of our students and staff. In collaboration with the Center for Collaborative Education's Reciprocity Project and the Harbor Point community, we are working to achieve a vision that the community would like to see come to fruition. After conducting listening sessions with the Harbor Point community to establish their goals for 7 to 12 school, the Reciprocity Project will also conduct listening sessions in our school by meeting with students through focus groups. Listening to the desired outcomes of our stakeholders, the feedback will then be used and analyzed to create an educational experience that provides opportunities for our students to be successful in our 7 to 12 school and beyond. We want to establish a school that serves our greater community, and as shown by those signing the letter in agreement, we are working as a collective to ask for what we feel is needed.
Please slow down.
Sorry.
Thank you.
We are working as a collective to ask for what we feel is needed to create a better learning environment. We are seeking a commitment from you in the BPS Central Office and the endorsement of the Boston School Committee to meet the following timeline. Done.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Lewis.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is David Lewis, and I'm a school counselor at the BCLA McCormick School and a member of the school's governing board. I live and work in the community of Dorchester, and I'm going to continue with the letter. I'd like to outline what we're seeking assurances on for the year 23-24, and then my colleague Ali Forbes will continue with what we're seeking for the following school year. Facilities updates, replace our current lockers, aesthetic improvements to the barren and dilapidated areas of the public facing exterior of the building, an installation of a operational closed circuit camera system. Our school has faced some safety concerns this year, and we serve a very high need population, and this is important for our school safety. A fresh coat of paint for the gym, classrooms, and hallways, replacement of whiteboards and installation of new whiteboards in appropriate classrooms, completion of the plan renovations, which is already ongoing, and then replacing antiquated classroom furniture with updated 21st century furniture. Those are facilities updates. For facilities planning, we like assurance that the district will start planning for phase 2 construction with a goal that will be completed in 24-25. We'd like to reignite conversations about the green space study that was promised. Share the most recent facilities condition update and complete a new facilities update, facilities assessment rather, and then plan for modulars to be in place for the following school year, because currently our school does not fit all of the students that we'll have in grades 7 through 12. And then finally, we'd like BPS to start discussions between BPS leadership and UMass Boston regarding providing additional space to our school, and plans for the dilapidated land where a baseball field currently sits outside of the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Alma Forbes.
Hi, I'm Alma Forbes. I live in Holbrook, work at BCLA McCormick Lower Campus. I'm a special educator, specializing in ELA and history, primarily with the 9th grade. For the start of the 24-25 school year, for facility updates, we're asking to construct additional bathrooms to meet the current unmet needs based on the layout of the building. We have the longest hallways ever in Boston, and there's one bathroom for each hallway. It's been problematic since we've been merging. Fully installed and operational modular building space with bathrooms ready to use. install new water fountains such as those the district began installing in other schools, and replace our bubblers, which we are currently using. Oftentimes this year we dealt with unsanitary incidents. Take necessary steps to improve air quality. As cited, we were cited as poor in the most recent publicly available report. Replace anything remaining that's antiquated in the classroom to bring us up to date with 21st century furniture throughout the building. Facilities planning. Plan and begin additional facility updates and space considerations for 2025 and beyond, based on recommendations from the most recent facilities assessment. Plan for phase 3 renovations, including possible updates to common areas, such as cafeteria or our lobby.
30
Gather
seconds.
staff and community feedback to renovate and redesign space occupied by the currently unused defunct boys and girls locker room. Plan for renovation of a library to create a high school appropriate library space, including modern technology and research technology. And with the non-facilities planning, continue negotiations with UMass Boston, moving toward an MOU or other more formalized agreement for the use of shared space. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Orlando Parilla, followed by Nicholas Ebisu, Mike Heischman, John Mudd, Liba Israel, Nisa Harrison, Tristan Granum, and Mary DeBenga. If you can all please raise your hands in Zoom. Orlando Parilla. Orlando, will you please accept the prompt? If you still wish to speak. Okay, let's try Nicholas Ebisu.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Ebisu. I'm a building rep at Boston Latin Academy and a teacher there, and I live in the West End. I would like to address the vote of no confidence taken by Boston Latin Academy staff regarding the head of school, Gavin Smith. The vote was taken as a last resort. The BLA faculty undertook 2 surveys and the vote only after 2 long years in which Mr. Smith consistently ignored the concerns and pleas of the faculty regarding school safety and protocols, only after 2 years of Mr. Smith's short-sighted policies that resulted in an estimated $500,000 in union penalties, and only after 2 years in which Mr. Smith unilaterally dictated the decline of a school previously respected for its teamwork and its excellence. Despite Mr. Smith having no prior experience at BLA nor as a head of school, he consistently refused input of experienced faculty members, in fact going so far as to ridicule, harass, and retaliate against them for raising concerns and making suggestions. Clearly, he deemed their input as a threat to exposing his own inexperience. Mr. Smith's insistence that he will stay on as a head of school despite the overwhelming vote of no confidence is emblematic of his all too consistent bury head in the sand approach to all problems in the last 2 years. Problems that include a dramatic increase in violence among students, a dramatic erosion of school safety procedures and academic standards, and a dramatic decrease in student belonging and engagement and trust among staff and administration. Perhaps he believes that if we continue to ignore these problems, they will simply disappear or we will give up and leave. The superintendent's response that Mr. Smith may stay on as BLA head of school despite a 93 of 109 staff members voting no confidence is disheartening and shocking. BLA faculty and student concerns do not simply involve one person or one person's job. A leader's success in a school forecasts the success of the school as a whole, its faculty, its community, and its hundreds of students. BLA faculty strongly urges the superintendent and the BPS school committee to understand that after 2 years of leadership and incompetency and irresponsibility, any hope of future success at BLA must involve a change in leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Our next speaker is Mike Heischman.
I did it. Mike Eichmann, Beja, Dorchester. Mazel tov, Ms. LaPera. Thank you for your service. Quote, it seems that we can move fast when we want to move fast. Close quote. School committee member Brandon Cadet Hernandez speaking at the June 7th Boston School Committee meeting. Quote, the school committee will permit the superintendent to move as slowly as she wants while she supervises a racist cover-up. Close quote. Mike Eichmann testifying again, and again before the school committee. Before taking office, Ms. Skipper on August the 24th last year had received a letter from 15 high-ranking retired BPS educators of color protesting against the targeting, harassment, and firing of anti-racist Black and Brown Central Office leaders. You have allowed Ms. Skipper to be in charge of this investigation against herself. It is now June 23rd, the last meeting of the school year. Nothing new again was reported today. I again accuse Ms. Skipper of conducting a racist cover-up. I again accuse you of abdicating your public responsibility by being silent and complicit in this cover-up. Last night, I attended a Zoom meeting of the O'Briens to discuss the new proposal to move the exam school to West Roxbury. Over 200 attended. Del Stanislaus was the major presenter. She briefly named and addressed the major concerns: transportation, preserving diversity, maintaining partnership, and potential alternative sites. Based on what I heard and read in the chat, no one was fooled and everyone was opposed. I requested the video in the chat be released to the school committee and the public. Moving an exam school from the heart of the city into the racist suburban, whiter, and wealthier edge of our city is a racist decision made in secrecy behind closed doors. To defeat this, I urge the O'Brien's community to conduct a massive campaign of resistance, and I pledge my support. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Orlando is raising their hand. So Orlando Parilla, let's try one more time. Orlando, can you accept the prompt, please? Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is John Mudd.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, if it matters, I'm a John Mudd, resident of Cambridge and a longtime advocate in Boston. If it matters, speaking for myself personally, I want you to know that I am deeply troubled by your decision not to hear a full report from the English Learners Task Force that was originally scheduled for this meeting. You know full well that BPS is failing to prepare over 90% of multilingual learners and multilingual learners with disabilities to meet expectations. Student outcomes such as these are unacceptable. You should find them unacceptable. They call for urgent action, not delayed attention. Postponing the English Learners Task Force report sends a message to me, and I expect to others, that although the task force is appointed by the school committee to provide policy advice to the school committee, such advice is not needed and doesn't count. The task force has already made many recommendations. Most important is access to native language. This will require the recruitment, hiring, development of bilingual staff. But after years of advice and advocacy by the task force, there has been little or no visible progress on either of these priorities. The school committee and the superintendent say that access to native language is a priority, but there is no follow-through, no action, and apparently no stomach to hear pressure from the task force to act. The students who are being failed deserve something better.
30
I
seconds.
understand the leadership of the task force and the district are meeting and trying to find whether there is a basis to work together on actions that will help these students. We need to see real action with real timetables, not just more soothing words. It may be revealing to see how you deal with these issues in the superintendent's evaluation, which is on the agenda later this evening. And Lorena, sorry I don't have more time, but sorry to see you go. Take care. Thank you for your help on these issues.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Liba Israel. Okay, they're not signed into the meeting, so let's try Nisa Harrison.
Good evening. Good evening, Superintendent, School Committee, and the Chair. Oh my gosh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous and I'm overwhelmed, actually. My name is Nisa. I'm a parent of a senior at Boston Latin Academy. I'm also a Boston Latin Academy alum. Can you add like 5 more seconds onto that? I'm also a teacher at the O'Brien. BPS in the city of Boston do not value educators. 85% of professionals voted no confidence in BLA's leadership. I cannot begin to imagine what those work conditions are like. BPS in the city of Boston do not value educators. I was before a media announcement to move the O'Brien to West Roxbury. O'Brien staff received a 10-minute Zoom call about the move. How disrespectful. BPS in the city of Boston do not value social emotional wellness of children, where 93 out of 109 professionals voted no confidence. Children cannot collectively push back against the poor decision-making at BLA. In fact, they tried and they were shut down. What is BPS's resolution? Let's send in 20 people to ensure one person can lead effectively. BPS and City of Boston do not value social emotional wellness of children because once the media announcement for OB to move, which is a predominantly Black and Brown institution, to West Roxbury, which is 76% white.
30 seconds.
Educators at OB took on the task of comforting children and assuaging their fears and anxieties of a drastic change to their community. I am realizing that if you align with bullying tactics, abuse of power, and the power structure, you have a sanctuary at the bowling. Walk down to City Hall, they'll welcome you with open arms. But if you stand up and out against dictatorship, as in the spaces where BLA leadership fails miserably, my friends, you are marginalized and targeted for retaliation. If you stand up and out against tyranny, such as get out of Roxbury into West Roxbury, you are told to stay in your place because there's no place for justice in this district. Appointed school committee much? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tristan Granum.
Thank you, School Committee Chair. My name is Tristan Granum, Jamaica Plain resident, teacher at Boston Latin Academy, and co-lead of the Faculty Senate. I'm here to share a letter on behalf from the Faculty Senate. Dear Superintendent Skipper, Chair Robinson, and members of the Boston School Committee, educators at Boston Latin Academy recently took a vote of no confidence in head of school, Gavin Smith. Following the vote of no confidence, the Faculty Senate wanted to make sure you have a summary of key concerns that we feel should be addressed by central office. Many of these concerns have been previously shared with central office, and most are ongoing and actively compromising the student learning and educator working experiences. First, many educators and students didn't have a complete class schedule on the first day of school. resulting in the loss of learning time and creating a wide array of problems that persisted throughout the school year. Second, there have been inconsistent and at times fully contradictory communications to staff about academic policies, leaving faculty and students confused and less prepared to teach and learn. Third, investigatory meetings are increasingly and frequently taking place based on unsubstantiated claims, leading to a culture of fear and retaliation. Fourth, despite repeated requests from educators, the school lacks clear protocols to follow when there are safety and behavior incidents at school, causing many students and faculty to feel unsafe and unsure of what to do. Fifth, concerns have been raised regarding potential patterns of identity-based discriminatory behavior against staff and students that have caused a lack of trust within the BLA community and an erosion of inclusivity, which educators believe has hurt the retention of frontline Black and Brown educators. Six, we have raised concerns that hiring practices at BLA don't appear to follow personnel committee protocols and do not always prioritize the most qualified candidates. Seventh, other school structures require meetings and processes such as those of the school site council, the instructional leadership team, and the faculty senate, all of which are supposed to ensure democratic and collaborative leadership amongst family, student, and educator stakeholders are being ignored, repeatedly canceled, neglected, or not adhered to. The issues extend well beyond this list, but given the urgency of some of the matters above, it is important to highlight them in the formal correspondence. We appreciate your attention to these urgent matters.
Thank you. Liba Israel is in the meeting. You'll be our next speaker, followed by Mary Debenga.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Liba Israel, a Roxbury resident, former student, and mentee of Mr. Smith. He has continuously been a positive role model, guiding me and other students he has crossed paths with to developing themselves into young professionals. I disagree with the no confidence vote. I've seen Mr. Smith progress professionally and push peers, staff, and myself towards excellence from 2019 till now. I know he's capable and qualified for this position and any higher position he decides to pursue. The mission of Boston Latin is preparing students to be independent leaders, contributing citizens in a diverse and challenging society. Yet staff meant to teach this mission have not learned to communicate directly and instead opted in for an incognito mob of online comments. I feel that the grievances against Mr. Smith are coming from a place of fear and tension due to the recent spike in incidents within BPS, but also globally. As a school, community communication and support should be happening behind the scenes before a public escalation happens. While Mr. Smith is direct, he keeps you accountable. He is not rude and wants nothing but your best effort every day. People who sugarcoat do not value your growth and development. Communication and feedback are useful tools to build lasting positive relationships, share needs and concerns, and provide support and assistance from personal experiences. From my personal experience, Mr. Smith has been very receptive and constructive to feedback, allowing us as students to review him and things that he could be doing better. If you took the time to tell him how you felt, he would take the time to learn how to communicate with you.
30 seconds.
The solution isn't removing someone every time you feel threatened. The solution is rounding up the village and getting back on track together as leaders that you want the students in future classes to see. As my time is coming to an end, I want to leave you with a question. Would you rather have someone there to do the job as a static figure in your community, or someone who puts education and meaningful support at the top of his to-do list every day?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mary Debenga, followed by Osasanaga Idahor, Nicolette Pocious, Aparna Lakshmi, Johnny Charles, Anne Braga, Mark Seiden, Dinah Shepard, Sherry Jackson, and Travis Marshall. If you can please raise your hands virtually. Mary?
Thank you. And I want to thank the committee for hearing my testimony this evening. I also want to apologize for the fact that I am testifying. This conversation I don't actually believe belongs at this body, and I actually really echo the sentiment that was said earlier about how there is too much time being devoted to 3 schools of this district when there are so many really important issues going on. And I did want to speak to the recent vote of no confidence at Boston Latin Academy, which is my school context. I am a resident of Roslindale, and I have 3 connections to Boston Latin Academy. I am an English teacher there. I am a parent of a 7th grader currently, and I'm also married to an alum. This community means a lot to me, as does the entirety of BPS. And I fully believe that we should handle problems through proper channels, and that it does not serve a school community to have its dirty laundry aired in front of the entire city. And that's why, as a faculty member at BLA, when I've had concerns, I've brought them through the proper channels. We've brought them through the bodies of the Faculty Senate. We've brought them through the bodies of our elected representatives through the union. And it's only because those members were not met with, that those concerns were not addressed, that the district did not respond, that we had to go to a vote of no confidence. And what I want to talk about now, there's lots can be said back and forth about what is the right thing or wrong thing, but I just want to make it really clear the deep sadness that I feel that our school is at this point, and also that as a teacher, I'm not one who doesn't believe in giving people opportunities and even second and third chances. I believe in the redemption arc and growth, but the model that we've been set up with to help Mr. Smith right now is not one that is working. Since the intervention, we've seen a model where we've had teachers asked to have to say in front of an entire staff and Mr. Smith grievances that they have with no guarantee. And I've had to ask in a meeting specifically that there be some protection for teachers when the issues we've raised have been around retaliation and things done in ways where Mr. Smith has refused to meet with the bodies that are our elected bodies. It is extremely important that we have a process that's going to be transparent and a process that's going to allow people to be protected who are vulnerable teachers, like teachers who are provisional. And we need a different model that's going to allow that to happen if we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next 2 speakers are not with us this evening. So we'll hear next from Aparna Lakshmi.
Good evening. My name is Aparna Lakshmi, and I am a teacher at the John D. O'Brien School of Math and Science, and I'm a resident of Roslindale. In their proposal to move the O'Brien to West Roxbury, Mayor Wu and Superintendent Skipper have made 3 promises that they cannot keep. First, Wu and Skipper have promised shuttle buses will solve the transportation nightmare of getting 2,000 students to West Roxbury. This is laughable given the current MBTA driver shortage, the realities of Boston traffic, and the fact that 10% of our students are from East Boston. Second, Wu and Skipper have promised that the O'Brien will stay diverse, but this is contingent upon the city maintaining its current exam school admissions formula, a formula which is currently being challenged in the courts. If the city loses this lawsuit, and let us remember the affirmative action lawsuit that they lost in 1998, they will be forced to abandon any formula which ensures exam school diversity. The O'Brien has always been the city's Black and Brown exam school, in large part because it is located in Roxbury. If we move to Westy, that will change. Finally, Wu and Skipper have promised that they have looked at alternatives and that the West Roxbury proposal is the only possibility on the table. This is clearly untrue. As we speak, there is a BPDA meeting regarding the lots on Harrison and Melnia Cass. This would be a prime location for our school near Ramsey Park's field space and the future BFIT College campus. The proposal to move the O'Brien to West Roxbury will likely be brought to the Boston School Committee this fall. I strongly urge this body to reject that proposal when it comes here. The city needs to go back to the drawing board to find central, safe, and equitable locations for both Madison Park and the O'Brien. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anne Braga.
Hi, my name is Ann Braga, and I'm the parent of a rising ninth grader at the O'Briens. I live in Mattapan with my family, and I wanted to echo Aparna's comments, which were made with 200 of our fellow interested folks last night at the school, the O'Brien Community Listening Session. My son goes to the O'Brien. He has attended since 7th grade. And the intrinsic thing that is lost with looking to move to the O'Brien, in addition to what's already been said and what will be said after me, is that two things. One is the opportunity to interact and collaborate with fellow students. There are multiple places to go, whether it's the neighborhood library or JP Licks in Jamaica Plain, or other places within the Roxbury area that are easy to walk or get to. And there are multiple existing transit hubs that are right near the school. So that's one thing. And it has provided a level of independence for my son to emerge as a confident young man going into high school and being able to navigate the challenges of the MBTA. I also lived in West Roxbury for 20 years and commuted into City Hall. And on a good day, and this is before traffic has gotten as bad as it is, it would take 45 minutes to an hour to get into City Hall from Spring Street across from the VA hospital.
20 seconds.
Thank you. I urge you to not consider this fait accompli in past decisions where these kind of decisions have been presented as options. It really isn't. And I really don't believe that this is an option. So I hope that the department and the school committee prove me wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Seiden.
Good evening. My name is Mark Seiden. I am a former teacher at the Boston Public Schools for 18 years, and I'm here tonight to ask that the committee move to name the theater at the Boston Arts Academy after Carmen Torres and Linda Nathan. In 1998, Boston Arts Academy opened at 174 Ipswich Street. It opened with 3 huge assets: an enthusiastic student body, a dedicated staff, and no asset more important than the bold vision of Carmen and Linda. Their vision was that we could open a school for the arts without admissions gated by either formal training in the arts, nor gated by a student's academic history. And with this, we could create an environment of growth and learning for students and adults alike. That was the vision. The reality was that we worked in a building that was inadequate in size, inadequate in terms of the lack of specialized spaces it offered for specialized curricula, and with an inadequate budget that failed to recognize that arts education costs money. The reality also was that because of the leadership and care of Carmen and Linda, we built a school that garnered all the attention and support that led to the school finally getting a facility adequate to the work that happens there. As important as the vision they pushed forward, Carmen and Linda were true teachers, teachers of teachers. As a young white male, I had a lot to learn as a young teacher. Carmen was magnificently patient, allowing me to make white guy mistakes with students and with her, never flagging in her belief or love for me, and helping me see how to both repair my mistakes and to move forward, hopefully making fewer mistakes. She helped me grow into the teacher I am through my many mistakes. No one ever felt shame around Carmen. That's the leader and the person that she was. Linda taught me and us not to be bound by the limited vision of the conventions of education that have led us to such disparate results. She insisted that we try things that seemed crazy because some of them would work or be the seed of something that would work. And she was right over and over again. Nothing could have been more valuable to me as a young teacher than this kind of guidance, patience, and care. And I am one among literally thousands who were touched by the work that Carmen and Linda led. I have not yet been able to visit the new building, but to be honest, I'm happy to wait until it is truly finished. BAA will be it is meant to be when its history is placed front and center. I believe all the thousands of us who have been touched by Carmen and Linda could agree that there is no better way to honor this history than to name the new theater in their memory and honor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dinah Shepard.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Dinah Shepard. I'm a parent of a rising 10th grader at OB. I live in Jamaica Plain, and I want to send big love to Chairwoman Jerry Robinson. I'm here to vehemently oppose moving OB from its home in Roxbury to West Roxbury. Speaking from my lived experience as a white woman, we take everything. We take resources, we take land, we take neighborhoods. But the amazing, ironic thing is that we have not collectively tried to take OB, arguably the best high school in the city. Up until very recently, many people that I know and love in West Roxbury would only consider 2 high schools in Boston, and OB was not one of them. Our city leaders have a proposal, a plan to orchestrate the theft of Black resources and move those resources to a heavily resourced white neighborhood. And I do not blame West Roxbury for the short-sighted plan. I blame our leaders. At the meeting that can only loosely be called a community meeting, people talked about how the new selection process puts a natural protection in place that will ensure BPS's commitment to preserve representation. Diversity is touted at our other 2 exam schools, but when a school is 40% white, it feels like it's 80%. When it's 30% white, it feels like it's 60%, because another thing we take is a lot of space. If OB begins to mirror the diversity of other exam schools, OB, as we know it, will also mirror their systemic issues of racism, division, and lack of equity. I have watched my people fight past mayors and superintendents and school committees. White people have fought against school start times and won. We fought against merging schools and won. White people fought against people walking back the promise of a 6th grade and won. I'm excited to see the powerful OB community be feared and heard in the same way people empower fear and hear my people. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sherry Jackson. Is Sherry with us? Can you please accept the prompt?
Hi.
Hi,
I'm
good
Sherry
evening.
Jackson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Sherry Jackson. I live in Newton. I'm a 32-year veteran of Boston Public Schools. I started in 1991 at Boston Latin Academy. And I'm basically here tonight because I'm kind of concerned of what is going on. I know what BLA was in the past and what it actually can be again with the right leadership. I've taught senior English for 16 years and junior English for the past 11 years. I had a couple of questions for the Mr. Smith last year about senior English. And at the end of the year, I was promptly told that I was stagnant and put into the 8th grade. I spent 16 years basically honing a curriculum to get all children, Black, brown, white, or whatever, into college and preparing them with the skills that they're going to need to make it a successful college freshman. I had students put together a petition last year to keep me in the junior, senior, and that was ignored. One of the things brought up tonight was the idea of all students basically being college ready. And I had a curriculum that basically prepared kids at BLA specifically, but it's something that could be done for all students. I agree it's a need. And again, I was taken out of the junior, senior track that I had taught the upperclassmen for the past 16 years, and promptly put into the 8th grade. And we actually need stronger leadership, somebody more experienced, someone who has been in the classroom for at least 10 years and understands that all subjects are different and are taught differently. Return autonomy to teachers. And again, as a professional who spent 32 years in a Boston public classroom teaching English, or 31, I ask for the assistance of the school committee and the superintendent to help us get Boston Latin Academy back on track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Our next speaker is Travis. Travis will be followed by Katie Mendoza Hayes, Nora Paul Schultz, Lena Papagiannis, Emerson Miller, Raul Danda, Danielle Villard, Jaden Riley, and Deirdre Manning. If you could please raise your hands in Zoom. Travis Marshall.
Good evening. My name is Travis Marshall. I live in Roslindale. I'm a parent of students at the Bates and excited to be joining the English high school community next year. I appreciate the discussion on the Globe piece about high school disparities. And I keep thinking about a quote from last week that families want to be able to screen out and only be around high performers. Because what I heard in public comment was parents at the most resourced K-8 in BPS feeling that their kids were penalized for attending a school with new facilities, computer lab, foreign language, arts, and athletics. A school experience that's totally foreign to most BPS students. Parents are upset because their child worked hard, but won't continue to enjoy the resources and opportunities that we reserve only for select students. The idea that we just need a couple hundred extra exam seats or a fourth school ignores the fact that expanding a system designed to segregate students with disabilities, 504 plans, English language learners from high performing students, quote unquote, will never remedy the opportunity gap. So 10 bonus points, no bonus points, we're missing the forest for the trees. The problem isn't that teachers aren't preparing every student to pass an exclusionary admission screen. The problem is the exclusion and the scarcity mindset that it fuels. We're confusing exclusion for excellence. We've created ever more convoluted mechanisms to preserve inequity. It's baked into our assignment system for kindergarten, how we ignore the incredible amount of private money that flows into a handful of wealthy schools. And it's what causes us to spend hours discussing which 12-year-olds deserve a broad and challenging education and which do not. We reify a hierarchy of human value every time we do this exercise. So your mission isn't to ensure that a family doesn't have to pay for private school. Your mission is to make sure that every child in every classroom has an equitable, world-class, high-quality education. And we know that is expensive.
Thank you, Travis.
Gatekeeping resources and opportunities will never fulfill it. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Katie Mendoza Hayes.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Katie Mendoza Hayes. I have worked at BLA for 15 years. I started in the health center there, and now I'm a school counselor. I love BLA and our amazing students and staff. We've always had a strong sense of community, school spirit, and pride. Unfortunately, under Gavin Smith, a culture of distrust and divisiveness has taken hold. Mr. Smith leads with a my way or the highway approach and has been unwilling to collaborate with appropriate stakeholders in the building in order to support student success. It is only now, under the weight of an overwhelming no confidence vote and central office involvement, that even a modicum of change has been made. Examples of such disregard for school norms and professionalism abound, but some stick out in their egregiousness. An example of this is when he took students on a tour of the HBCUs, a wonderful, unique opportunity for our students. but no information was given to the guidance counselors or college advisors, denying us the ability to talk to our students about taking advantage of this opportunity or to use our expertise to best prepare them for these visits. Not leading by example or showing a willingness to jump in when further needed hurt the school culture. Small things like choosing not to cover lunch duty or bus duty when short-staffed was troubling, and not including himself in the hallway safety sweeps that were set up after an 8th grade fight was a glaring example of his lack of presence in the building when needed. There are many examples of his general lack of leadership, but most can be boiled down to this. He seems unwilling to listen and change, and clearly regards feedback from an experienced and passionate staff as without merit and beneath him, whether it be in hiring committees, staff meetings, or one-on-one conversations. Staff is treated with minimal professionalism, respect, and
20
appreciation. BPS's plan talks about mentors and meetings, but I don't feel confident that mentors can change his lack of respect. Asking the staff to further wait out this turnaround is unfair to them and entirely damaging to the students that deserve the best version of BLA, one that does not and cannot exist under Mr. Smith's leadership. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nora Paul Schultz.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. My name is Nora Paul Schultz, and I'm a resident of Jamaica Plain and a physics and engineering teacher at the O'Brien. I have real concerns about the proposed move of O'Brien to West Roxbury. While I have many concerns about this plan, today I want to talk about how the location will impact our partnerships and an alternative vision for the O'Brien. Our partnerships are key to our STEM education. Students are able to do dual enrollment in multiple universities, including having a math class co-taught by Wentworth professors. Students are able to do internships and work at hospitals like Dana-Farber and the Brigham. If we move to West Roxbury, all of this would be harder. I'm asking you all as school committee members to imagine a different vision. Keep us in Roxbury. Have OB also be part of this magnificent vision of Madison being part of the Nubian Square redevelopment. If we were to be located at parcel 3 across the street from where we are now, we could have students interning at the life science labs that will be there. If we were at the undeveloped land at Molina Cass and Harrison Ave, we would be across the street from Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology. They have a BS in electrical engineering that we already have connections to. What are the possibilities that could grow with this proximity? As an engineering teacher, I've been trying to make connections with Madison teachers, making connections with their makerspace and engineering program. My students tried to have their engineering project fabricated by the welding program at Madison, but the end of the year and lack of materials got in the way. I am hopeful to continue to build these connections, help make this a possibility. O'Brien could also be of service to the Nubian Square community. Our promised makerspace labs could run programs for the Nubian Square community and give access to folks to these tools. I see a vision of O'Brien that excites me, and I hope you all as school committee members in the city can get on board with this vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Lena is not here, so our next speaker will be Emerson Miller.
Hi, my name is Emerson Miller. I have a request regarding my grandson, Zachary Miller. He's a student at Dearborn Academy, and we live in Dorchester. Last May, Zach's dad and my son died unexpectedly. Although Zach always had good grades, he received 1 C for the last quarter of last year. This year, we applied for exam schools and were told because of his math scores were so high, nationally, 99% in math, 98% in science, and 94% in English. We were told due to that he would easily get into an exam school. Zach did get a C the fourth term of last year, and his GPA ended up being 7.875, which is 0.13, too low to be considered for an exam school. Zach belongs in an exam school, and not considering his profound loss is just not humane. Without a human element, we are failing Zach. We are failing my grandson. Zach's math score was the second highest in the entire school, including the high school. One senior scored higher than he did. Zach needs to be challenged, and this will not happen at Dearborn. I'm asking that his application for Boston Latin School be reconsidered and that he be given the opportunity for as much scholastic growth as possible. I have provided you his grades for the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Raul Danda.
Hello. Thank you for your time. My name is Rahul Danda, parent to 2 OB students, class of 23 and 28, living in Dorchester. I would like to voice many objections to the proposal to relocate O'Brien because I favor a comprehensive, equitable process for both Madison and the O'Brien. Yesterday, the OB community was engaged for the first time with nearly 200 people, reaching a consensus to reject the proposal. Most importantly, none of their issues were addressed. The constant refrain for every issue by the city was, we still need to work that out. The credible concerns include, but are not limited to, a lack of transparency in the process, hostility towards diversity, a non-credible plan for transportation, disregard for the existing and superior ecosystem of community partners, no economic plan or budget cut protection to sustain essential infrastructure. West Roxbury school enrollment vastly overrepresents white students and underrepresents others, especially Black and Hispanic students. Educators may be lost in the move. The steering committee has been hidden and excludes stakeholders with children at the school, consisting of cherry-picked alumni. Every Boston representative in that meeting admitted there was no plan or budget in existence to justify any claims, nor did they express sincere concern about diversity. The mayor's own Green New Deal has a racial equity toolkit in the office of the superintendent, stressing both transparency and centering voices of a diverse population. It has been ignored. I propose an open and thoughtful process be initiated to independently assess O'Brien and Madison. It should follow city benchmarks, inclusive of community stakeholders, and emphasize racial equity. I request all data, minutes, involved individuals, and information used in the current proposal be made public, as well as all future data. Finally, I urge the school committee members to reject any proposal that does not follow a transparent process, and this proposal for the O'Brien does not. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Danielle Villard, followed by Jaden Riley, Deirdre Manning, Siddiqui Kambon, Eve Harmon, Stacy Kramer, Sonia Whitehope, and Manuela Medina. Please raise your hands virtually. Danielle?
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, members of the school committee and superintendent and skipper. My name is Danielle Villard. I live in Hyde Park, and I'm a 2022 alumni of the John D. O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science, who now attends Northeastern University. I'm here because I have concerns about Superintendent Skipper and Mayor Wu's proposal to move the O'Brien to West Roxbury. It is troubling that the O'Brien would be moved, as its current location is one that is very accessible to a number of students of a diverse set of communities. As a Hyde Park resident, I know the distance well from O'Brien to Hyde Park. It is not a simple one. A bus and train are almost always required to make that distance. And West Roxbury is even farther southwest than Hyde Park. A 10-minute drive from Hyde Park to West Roxbury becomes a 45-minute MBTA commute. The reason I am mentioning this is because a majority of O'Brien students live in neighboring areas to the O'Brien. For example, Dorchester, Jamaica Plain, or Roxbury itself, which is what makes the school so diverse considering the diverse communities that surround the school. Now, imagine how far the commute would be for students, likely 50 minutes or more just to get to West Roxbury by MBTA. Not to forget those coming from East Boston and Allston who would have more than an hour commute just to get to the school. This not only would exhaust students, but make it difficult for students to be on time for classes and engage in extracurricular activities due to distance. This proposal sets limitations on the O'Brien students due to a loss of accessibility. The O'Brien is a school of culture, variation of race and ethnicity, and within a practical location. My worry remains that a move to a more isolated location would greatly affect this identity of the school. Though I do not oppose a move, I do urge the school committee to support moving to another location within Roxbury, where resources and opportunities can still be created for students through initiative and outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jaden Riley.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Before I begin, I would like to let you know that Nicolette Pocious is present in the chat. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jaden Riley. I reside in Dorchester, and I am a 2023 graduate of the John D. O'Brien. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk about why my high school should remain in Roxbury. Removing OB from Roxbury will remove the diversity and connection in the Boston community. Myself, amongst many others, have gained experiences in and out of the school community due to its accessibility to public transportation, other educational institutes such as colleges, which provide dual enrollment opportunities, as well as athletics and other programs that benefit students, and many other locations such as the Reggie Lewis Center, Fenway Park, and many museums that allow students an out-of-the-classroom learning experience. Our school resides in a neighborhood of minorities and diversity. Having OB in Roxbury has given students an opportunity to showcase intelligence, skills, and talents that battle discriminatory stereotypes and adversity. Being a part of OB, I've been allowed to travel to new places, participate in activities I would have never had the opportunity to do at old schools, and best of all, I've been allowed to express myself and had the opportunity to find myself at OB. Whether it be for job internships, or other opportunities, programs that harness skills and talents, or having connections in school and in the community itself, O'Brien has a place for everyone. Taking O'Brien from Roxbury, from its home, will only cause its demise. Students, families, and faculty have already expressed plans to relocate in the school when the school moved, and many students and many families won't want to enroll their students in the school. The reputation of OB will falter, and with less connection and less diversity, O'Brien won't be the same. So I ask here tonight, do what is right for my school, give it a better place in the neighborhood it's better in, which is Roxbury. I would hope that in 2028, I'll be able to come back and see my brother graduate as an O'Brien Tiger. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Nicolette Pocious, followed by Deirdre Manning.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolette Pocious, and I am a teacher at the John D. O'Brien. I am finishing up my 6th year at the John D. O'Brien, and I absolutely love our school and our community. Our strength as a community is in our diversity. And when I first heard about this move, it was from a parent on June 1st who said, I heard a rumor from someone who spoke with a councilwoman who said that O'Brien is being moved to West Roxbury. I said, no, that's ludicrous. They would never do something like that, especially without talking with the staff members. I come to be fairly shocked when 5 days later, it's announced during a 15-minute Zoom that was originally supposed to be an update on our head of school search. That Zoom had been scheduled for Thursday, June 3rd, I believe, and then it got delayed with no notice at first that it was delayed. So when we entered the Zoom on that following Tuesday, it was with expectation that we were being updated on our head of school search, not that we were being told that we were being moved. Our students deserve the best. Our school needs repairs. We do deserve a better school. I am a coach, so I do understand the need for great fields. However, West Roxbury is not the answer. Moving us to West Roxbury makes it incredibly difficult for so many of our students to get there. Transportation in the city is horrendous. I live in Revere, and I would love to take the Blue Line and be able to lower my carbon footprint, especially as an environmental science teacher. Yet I cannot rely on that to get to school. One morning, I saw a student walking to school at 6:30 in Eastie. He didn't get to school until 8:10 because there were shuttle buses that were taking over
30
Blue
seconds.
Line. What's going to happen if we move to West Roxbury? How are those students going to get to and from school? Students who do clubs, who do sports, are we going to have constant shuttles running? Or are we going to be like, oh, we're going to have one day of clubs, so you're going to lose those after school opportunities? So many students are important to their families as childcare providers. Moving our school to West Roxbury takes away that opportunity for education. I ask you, please consider somewhere in Roxbury. Keep us where the heart of our community and the heart of our school is, not where all the white people are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Deidre Manning, followed by Siddiqui Cambone, Eve Harmon, and Stacy Kramer.
I'm a single parent of 3rd and 5th grade girls, one in BPS and the other at a public charter school. She left BPS last year primarily due to near daily fights after the principal was attacked by a 16-year-old girl and knocked unconscious. It would be an understatement to say that the atmosphere at the Henderson was not conducive to learning. Unfortunately, my 5th grader, who has spent 6 of her 7 school years as a BPS student, lost the bonus points when she left the Henderson. Based on the data available, even scoring highly on the MAP test and with the good grade she has earned, she will be shut out of all exam school seats next year without the 10 points, as we live in a Dorchester neighborhood that is considered better off based on census tract data. Her school has a poverty level that is trending in the right direction, but BPS uses a 5-year average. This year, the DESE calculated rate for her school is 44.1%. That means that 44% of the students currently in a public charter school who are considered poor are disadvantaged by the 10-point policy. BPS can actually identify students who are disadvantaged and provide them with additional points. The tiered system also serves as a way of giving students who live in less affluent neighborhoods a benefit by allowing them to be first in line when seats are allocated. There are many things that are inequitable about the exam school admissions policy, bonus points for virtually all, chief among them. And waiting for the 5-year mark to reevaluate the policy deprives children like my daughter of opportunities that cannot be regained. I greatly admire President Carter and his wife for all the work they have done to uplift people in poverty. However, I disagree with their decision to send their young daughter to Washington, D.C.'s terrible public schools as a way to draw attention to the mismanaged school system. Children should not be used as pawns to attempt to fix problems caused by adults. Rather than doing the challenging work of identifying underrepresented students and providing them with services and tutoring at an early age, BPS administrators want to put the thumb on the scale the year before 7th
Please
grade.
slow down. Just slow down a bit. Thank you.
I really am concerned that my daughter and other deserving students like her will be relegated to underperforming BPS high schools by a well-intentioned but seriously flawed exam school admission policy. Please look at adjusting the tiered allocation of seats by percentage of students applying and allocate bonus points directly to students in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Siddiqui Cambone. Good evening. Can you please unmute?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Appreciate your patience. I'm a novice when it comes to technology. But let me just say that, well, first, my name is Sadiki Cambon, and I'm the director of the Black Community Information Center and chair of the Nubian Square Coalition, which is a component of the Black Community Information Center. And let me be very candid, and trust me, this is the basic sentiment of the community, that we feel that the what has been presented by the mayor and the superintendent to our community has been very disrespectful and insulting as it pertains to moving the O'Brien High School. There had been no consultation whatsoever. We were just told what's going to happen. So let me just say that this is a call, and this is, like I said, the sentiment of the community, that we would like to put that proposal on hold. And let me just say that we would like to be able to present a plan from the community. I had a lengthy discussion today with an architect who has a national reputation, who was right in Roxbury, who gave me a quick summary of what he felt it would take to, in fact, address the issues for not only Madison, but also the O'Brien, not only in terms of rehabilitation, but expansion of that location to accommodate the increased number of students. So we would hope that we would get that type of consideration and respect. As I stated, this architect said that he's prepared to pull together a team that would in fact come up with a plan, if you will, that would be able to accommodate the wishes of the community for the O'Brien to remain there, with the concentration being not only on the physical plant, but improving the quality of education at Madison Park Vocational High School. So I appreciate the time, and I would hope that we would, at this point, get the type of respect that we feel we deserve in terms of considering that type of a move.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Eve Harmon.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Eve Harmon. I'm a former Mission Hill resident and former student at the John D. O'Brien School. I am here tonight because I oppose Superintendent Skipper and Mayor Wu's proposal to move the O'Brien School to West Roxbury. As a former student at the O'Brien, I relied heavily on public transit traveling to and from school, which I know is the case for many other O'Brien students. West Roxbury is one of the least public transit accessible neighborhoods in the city. And if the O'Brien School were to move there, this would prevent many students from having access to the transportation that they need. Additionally, the O'Brien is the most diverse of Boston's 3 exam schools, as well as the most representative of the demographics of the Boston Public Schools as a whole. Part of what gives the O'Brien School the ability to be this diverse is its location in Boston. If it were to move to West Roxbury, it is likely that this would no longer be the case. I believe that it would be incredibly unfortunate for the city of Boston to no longer have an exam school whose student population is not representative of the demographics of all of our public schools. I understand also that this plan comes about in order to get Madison Park, the only technical vocational high school in the city, the rejuvenation and the investments that it needs, something that I believe is absolutely necessary. That being said, there are other ways for this to be done without moving the O'Brien School to a less accessible location for many of its students. That would likely cause a decrease in the diversity of its student population. And I urge the mayor and the superintendent to consider other alternatives to this plan in order to achieve the goals that this plan seeks to achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stacy's not in the meeting, so our next speaker will be Sonia Whitehope. Hi, good evening.
Okay. Okay. Oh dear. I'm sorry. It
threw up a background that I didn't intend. I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with my planning. Good evening, school committee members, guests, and neighbors. My name is Dr. Sonia White Hope, and in addition to being a longtime Fenway resident, I'm a music teacher at Boston Latin Academy. I've had the privilege of teaching in the Boston Public Schools since 1992 and Boston Latin Academy since 2012. I genuinely love my work and am proud to work with BLA students and colleagues. Let me get right to the point. While I am disheartened that BLA students must endeavor to learn amidst our school's challenging climate, I'm encouraged by the adults' dialogue. I joined with my colleagues in voting no confidence in our current school leadership because I think the concerns warrant a larger conversation and change. Large group and one-on-one discussions between educators are and will continue to be essential for rebuilding a healthy learning environment for our students. Nevertheless, actions speak louder than words, hence our vote of no confidence. I welcome actions that genuinely support pedagogy grounded in equitable practices, consistent and reliable order and safety, and an affirming, joyful learning and teaching community. I'll give a concrete example. Educators at BLA, stymied by the threat of retribution due to retaliation after standing up for their marginalized students, have been obliged to evaluate whose interests they can effectively defend. Said another way, teachers, guidance counselors, and others must choose whether to endure mistreatment of their students or accept mistreatment to themselves. I will close my remarks by noting that BLA students deserve leadership as action that supports their intellectual and personal growth and their physical safety. As teachers, our first priority is always creating inspiring learning environments. However, when the environment changes to one where school leadership makes educators feel fearful, that is not good for anyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Manuela Medina, followed by Dominique Peters, Isaiah Lawton, Tasha Bramwell, Sonal Patel, Shanice Ball, Alicia Burke, and Claudia Rosa Leitao Grassa. If you could please raise your hands virtually. Manuela.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm here in support of Mr. Smith's leadership. I am Manuela Medina. I'm the family liaison at Boston Latin Academy. Good evening, everyone. I am here in support of Mr. Smith's leadership. As a Latina professional, I can't say that I have felt welcomed by the BLA community, but have had full support from my school leader, and he has showed up for me in multiple ways. He has been a mentor to me this year, as it has been my first year at BLA and in BPS. With a mentor, moments of praise and moments of critique happen. This is normal. I have experienced both with Mr. Smith and have appreciated his feedback and taken it to grow. I have seen him show up for multiple school events in support of our students and teachers. I have felt shunned by the teachers at BLA. I do not feel welcome walking into the school as people stop talking when I'm around or walk the other way. I have received multiple insults and closed doors when trying to voice my opinions in faculty senate or even wanting to collaborate with teachers. As a Latina, being called sassy is one of the most harmful and hurtful things you could say. And I was called this during a faculty senate meeting. And none of the facilitators or leaders leading this meeting intervened to steer the conversation in a different way. I believe we have to stop trying to be right and work together to make things better for our faculty and our students.
30 seconds.
It seems that because I have been vocal about my support for Mr. Smith, I have been put into a do not associate box. Regardless, my support continues to be solid for him and the work that he does. Thank you.
Thank you. Dominique is not in the meeting, so we'll hear next from Isaiah Lawton.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Isaiah Lawton. I am a Dorchester resident and a former student of Gavin Smith. I just wanted to share that Gavin Smith has been an extraordinary teacher and mentor to me since we first met in high school. Mrs. Smith was my second Black male teacher in my life, and the first to actually inspired me to achieve my goals as a teacher. He has went out of his way to make sure that I did what I need to do to graduate, and still feed into my passions outside of school. There were times when Mrs. Smith has shown up early to school just to teach me and tutor me, as well as stayed after to make sure that the rest of his kids still knew what they needed to do. Mrs. Smith has also engaged in my outside activities and gotten my first audition into the Urban Nutcracker, and has stood by me through the entire process of that audition. The amount of care that Gavin Smith has for his students is greater than you can ever imagine. And as a Black queer male, it's very hard to find another Black male teacher that truly does care about you. 5 years after graduating high school, he still continues to offer me jobs, offer me things that are going to feed into my career, and truly just support me in everything that I do. Just as much as he's watched me grow from the 16-year-old that would ditch class and things like that,
20 seconds.
I've also seen him grow from the first year biology teacher to now being the principal at Boston Latin Academy. And that in itself says a lot of the determination that he has for everyone. His care for his education, for students' education, and the reason why he's here now. And I know that there are a lot of students that care about him just as much as he cares about us. Thank you.
Thank you. Tasha's not in the meeting. Our next speaker will be Sonal Patel.
Hi, I'm sorry. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Sonal Patel. I am a parent of an O'Brien student, 8th grader. And, I want to just express that I am opposed to the proposal at relocation to West Roxbury. A location was critical when we chose an exam school for my son. And the fact that not everyone uses public transportation. In fact, my child gets dropped off because my husband works for the state, and he gets dropped off every morning because of where OB is located. The other point as well is that some of the other parents have brought up is the ecosystem. My child does not participate and has not participated in the sports team at O'Brien, but what we have done is he has done community rowing, which is through Harvard, and there is where he takes shuttle buses through the Northeastern Ruggles Station. This last year during the 8th grade, we decided to do Squash Busters, which was again at Northeastern campus. And then the other ecosystem that becomes critical as he's looking at engineering as well as potentially biomedical pathways are the Harvard medical area, in being able to do even potentially work part-time, as well as attend school, right? So a lot of that is the critical ecosystem of why we picked O'Brien for him. And then, when you look at the fact that moving to something like West Roxbury, the commute time, the fact that the kids have 3 hours of homework, at what point in time, sports activities, after school clubs, there's really no time left with the amount of commute that would take for kids to go, and parents even to be able to pick up, drop off, and participate in school activities. And the last, one more point was critical is that as we look at the future of high schools, right, knowing that post-COVID, corporations have gone to hybrid remote work is, do we necessarily need the same amount of space as before if we are looking at what does future of education look like? Could there be hybrid as kids are, as you look at high schools and
Thank you,
reimagining what a high school looks like? Sure.
Thank you. Our next 5 speakers are not in the meeting, so we'll hear from Chanel Shearer, Tamela Bailey, Anya Nee Kala-Cook, Lockton Yao, Eugenia Corbo, Maureen Calderon Perkins, Carolyn Shadid Lewis, and Anne Chinchilla DeGeorge. If you can please raise your hand virtually in Zoom. Chanel?
Yes.
Good evening.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Chanel Shearer, and I'm the parent of an honor student at the O'Brien. I live in Dorchester. Dear Superintendent Skipper and school committee members, I'm here as a concerned parent of the O'Brien School of Math and Science. This move that has recently been announced by Mayor Wu is highly problematic. There is no dispute that the O'Brien deserves a new campus that provides our children with the best facilities to foster learning and growth for STEAM and STEM. We agree that our school could benefit from not having a campus that is shared with another school, yet our school, most importantly, deserves to have that new facility built right here, centrally located in the heart of Roxbury, with easy access to the different MBTA hubs, access to community and college partnerships, public libraries, athletic complexes like the Reggie Lewis Center, and support of everything the community or the Roxbury community has to offer. One of the reasons we chose the O'Brien as our first pick for exam schools was its easy access to the T and it being the most diverse of the exam schools. We are asking as parents that the relocation to the West Roxbury campus be seriously reconsidered. As a part of the OB community, what makes the O'Brien special is its diversity and inclusion. Moving the O'Brien to the West Roxbury will most definitely alter that diversity the O'Brien has worked so hard to maintain. There are lots and lands in Roxbury that are adequate for new OB campuses like Parcel 3.
20 seconds.
P3 has 7.7 acres of land in the O'Brien would only need 0.7 to build a new facility right in Roxbury. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamela's not in the meeting, so our next speaker will be Anya Cook.
Hello, apologies. That took me a minute. I do want to say that I'm sorry already to Mr. Cardad Hernandez because I know you're tired of hearing about exam schools. But that's where I'm going to go. Good evening, all. My name is Anya Nichala Cook. I'm a member of the faculty at Boston Latin Academy and a resident of Hyde Park. I admit I am saddened and conflicted about speaking publicly around our school struggles. I believe in addressing issues of a community within that community. But unfortunately, my present experiences as a member of BLA is such that need for external support is not just necessary, but urgent. Prior to and during and after the pandemic, I co-chaired the instructional leadership team. As a faculty, we identified and planned to address specific problems of practice in the learning community. At year's end, 2020, I compiled the next steps for September using data and feedback from teachers, administrators, parents, and students. During the academic year of 2020 to 21, there was a clear plan and actionable steps in rebuilding and reimagining instruction post-pandemic. All the work was student-facing with anticipated student service and support blocks built in, including district mandates. The head of schools mismanagement and refusal to engage and lift up best practices or listen to teacher feedback has been deeply felt for students. His two stated goals in arrival was to increase students' literacy and math skills and reduce the disproportionate low grades of male, African American and Latinx students, a goal that we uplifted and were excited to work on. Faculty and sports staff have had ideas in the past about how to improve students' results, but we are constantly giving down top-down agendas in professional development and content team meetings. As a result, both our MAP testing data and Panorama data shows that not only are students who were engaged and working are now not coming to school as much and are at a greater risk of failing at least one core subject. In closing, I am wondering how many members of external support staff will be needed to address the myriad of issues we are experiencing, and I wonder how long are we asking our students to wait for the progress of one person so that we can move in support and service of our BLA family. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lokden Yao.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me. But my name is Lokden Yao. I'm the health teacher, volleyball coach, and former alum at Latin Academy. I'm here to discuss the issues I've had with head of school Gavin Smith's lack of communication and urgency, and the problems it creates amongst the community. One example of this is when trying to book gym space starting in mid-June last summer. We had to wait for Mr. Smith's permission to use the space. This was hindered by Mr. Smith's non-response to me or other fellow staff members like Athletic Director Mr. Huey, Assistant Head of School Ms. Holmes, and Mary Ellen Sheeran from BPS Athletics, who tried tirelessly to book the space for the girls volleyball team. Even my captain, Kelly Hoffman, had to suffer through the ordeal as well because she wanted to book gym time for captain practice for the team so that they can prepare for tryouts. Even after 2 months in August, the girls called me on the day of their first captain's practice from the doorsteps of BLA. They told me that they were being turned away because their permit was for the wrong time. This happened because of the result of over 30 emails, text messages, phone calls over a 2 month period stemming from Gavin's lack of a response to our requests. The wrong time was inputted on the permit because of this. This is just one of many examples that we dealt with, and this is just a short excerpt of a joint statement that some of my volleyball captains had. They wanted to say it was particularly aggravating because we had games to prepare for and no alternative but to vacate whenever we received these last minute notifications. These issues persisted during the boys season as well. Despite having a permit for the gym, we were informed at the 11th hour that it was occupied by a club or teacher assembly. When we reached out for adults for clarification, we received conflicting information. These issues persisted academically as well, as my schedule as a teacher kept changing, even after letting administrators as well as Mr. Smith know about it. My schedule would change just before a term or during the term. And there was no response from Mr. Smith when notifying him of these concerns. Imagine trying to attend a health.
Lokden, I'm afraid you're past your time.
Okay, all right.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Eugenia Corbo.
One second, trying to turn on my video. Sorry about that. Dealing with a speed meltdown that time. I'm Eugenia Corbo. Can you guys see me? Yes. I'm Eugenia Corbo. I'm a parent at the Humana in East Boston, and I'm testifying on behalf of some local O'Brien parents. I don't think East Boston families would choose to send their kids to school all the way in like Dedham or Needham, and sending them all the way to West Roxbury is almost the same. Moving the O'Brien to what I would figuratively call the antipodes of East Boston and Charlestown makes no sense and is incredibly inequitable. I don't have the statistics for Charlestown, but I know that 9.3 of the student population of the O'Brien commutes from EC. And they do so by public transportation because unlike the two other exam schools, kids don't get buses to the O'Brien from here. If the school moves to West Roxbury, we're talking about at least doubling the commute for all these kids. A shuttle service is being proposed with Maverick Station as a possible hub, but that actually doesn't solve anything for most families in East Boston unless they live right by Maverick. Many families would have to allocate 30 minutes just to get to Maverick. So it'd be a 90-minute commute anyway. That's just one way. And that is time that could be much better spent on schoolwork, on sports, on extracurricular activities, on sleep, and on time with family and friends. And kids will also lose the independence of being able to travel on the T to external partnership programs, as others have said. And if a kid needs a shuttle, needs to go in a bit late after a doctor's appointment at the local health center or anything like that, getting to school from East Boston by public transportation could take between 90 minutes and 2 hours each way.
20 seconds.
Medicine Park needs the amazing space it will get. They absolutely do. The O'Brien also deserves that, but they also deserve to stay in a more central location, hopefully close to where they currently are. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maureen Calderon Perkins.
Good evening, everyone in attendance to this meeting. So my name is Maureen Calderon Perkins. I'm a resident of Rosendale. I am an alum to the John D. O'Brien, as well as a spouse to an alum and a volunteer coach, and a parent of a current O'Brien student. I'm also an educator just down the street from O'Brien at the Hurley K-8 campus. This is something that is very emotional to me. And I am asking and I'm imploring you to please reconsider this move to West Roxbury. This is a school that shaped me as a person, as a first-generation American, as a daughter of immigrants. I owe a lot to the O'Brien and to the community that it creates and to the educators that are there. As a parent, I'm concerned for the potential changes to the current diversity of the school. I'm a parent of a multiracial child who struggled with their identity because they were attending a school that was not as diverse as the O'Brien. And I've been privileged to have my child attend that school and seen the growth that they have made because of the educators there, but also because of its location and the richness of that community. I'm here to not only just share my concerns, but those of my family members. As a spouse of someone that is a coach, their concerns about the O'Brien continuing to serve the various other schools that participate in the athletics with the O'Brien students. I'm concerned about due enrollment access with the school being so far away. I'm concerned about transportation access. I'm also concerned as an educator of the Hurley, who's proud of all the students that have earned admission into the O'Brien from the Hurley. And I fear that with the move of the location, parents will choose to not have their child go there because of difficulties of transportation and all the other things that everyone has shared. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carolyn Shadid Lewis.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Shadid Lewis. Thank you for having me. I am a resident of Jamaica Plain and a parent of a rising fourth grader and a former Mission Hill School parent. It's been a year for me. It took me a long time to be able to come back to explain what we went through last year, which was really, really terrible. There was a lot of talk about, the well-being of children, but the truth is that the only children that mattered were the children from families with the resources to sue. All the other children were dispensable, and they were hurt and they were damaged. And I witnessed it as a volunteer in the classroom. And most specifically, those who were hurt were the kids of color, those who were being bussed in from other neighborhoods, who were being denied an education in 3 classrooms especially, and in others as well. I understand that there's a lot of difficult decisions that the committee has to make, but how this happened was so wrong, and that you put our children in the midst of a salacious news story, that they were the ones who took the brunt of what adults were doing at the district level, as well as leadership that needed to improve. And the destabilization that happened really damaged for a year's worth of education that was really crucial at a point where these kids needed extra help. We wasted money on investigations when we should have been putting them into the children. I had to call 911 on abusive press who harassed our children, harassed me twice. This was a horrifying experience. And, I'm listening now. I wanted to say more, but now that I'm hearing about the O'Brien, and I actually am thinking more about this, you cannot move that school.
Excuse me,
You
Carolyn.
moved Mission Hill,
Carolyn,
from Mission Hill to Jamaica Plain, and it destroyed the community. It's the beginning of the end. Don't do the same to any other school.
Thank you,
Don't
Carolyn.
do that to the O'Brien.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anne Chinchilla DeGeorge, followed by Tomas Juhas, Liza Kagwa-Ku, Betsy Yoshimura, and Jonathan Muniz Feliciano. If you can please raise your hands virtually in Zoom. Anne?
Sorry, hello. Hi, my name is Anne Chinchilla DeGeorge. I'm a Roxbury resident and the son of a 7th grader at Boston Latin Academy. As you've heard, we've had significant problems at BLA, and they are continuing to permeate the school community with fracturing among us. This leadership is not welcoming of all voices and fosters the silencing of students, parents, and teachers who dare to question it. I have found it to be rather toxic myself, and I actually fear that we have misled those coming in as I was misled last year. Yes, blatantly lied to in the new family orientation. Families are dividing and bullying those who question this leadership. Students are posting signs on the school after being told not to by this leadership and taking to social media to share their shocking experiences at BLA. This should be upsetting to all of us. To be clear, this isn't about liking or disliking someone, nor is it about race or age. It is about experience, competence, and trustworthiness in BLA's leadership. It is about the thriving of all students and about the fostering of an engaged community to support our students. Right now, we have a situation where one individual seems to be more important than the entire school community, and it just doesn't make sense. This isn't a company building widgets or making the best burrito in Boston, which are both highly commendable, but these are our children, and this is about the future of their lives and the city of Boston. These children cannot get their time back. What we give them is what they get, and we have not met the exceptional standards that we know BLA is capable of. This year, multiple classes were left without science directly due to the poor choices of this leadership, among many other things. The inexperience of the entire leadership team at BLA shines brightly with either a for me or against me approach, completely polarizing. Our family liaison, who you just heard from, Ms. Medina, is a great example of this. She is supposed to be this to support families like mine, but has instead become a mouthpiece for this leadership, even publicly attacking me. She is not my family liaison. By all accounts, BLA is suffering and only getting worse, but you will not listen. And I have to ask why. I am left wondering what is really going on here. With such a precious commodity, we simply cannot take more time to continue failing. Please consider change immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tomas Juhas. Tomas, please accept the prompt if you'd still like to speak. Okay, let's try Liza Kagwaku.
Thank you, Superintendent Skipper and school committee members. I'm a parent of the O'Brien from Rosendale, adding my voice to the chorus you've already heard that no amount of state-of-the-art facilities will mitigate the damage that a move to West Roxbury would inflict on the O'Brien community. Last week, I was on a Zoom with my son's OB friends, a few of whom also live in Rosendale and would therefore benefit from the move. It was clear that these students understood how much this change would hurt nearly all their peers, and they did not want it. Their gut reaction of solidarity is a marker of what OB makes possible and of what is now at risk. If this move is instituted, the community makeup of OB will shift dramatically as families from Roxbury, East Boston, Dorchester, and other areas spare their children the 4 a.m. wake-ups and multiple hours of commuting to West Roxbury each day. The idea that bus shuttles will make these commutes livable is not realistic. Given the current performance of both the school and public transportation and Boston traffic, how will students who stay for sports get home? West Roxbury is not an accessible neighborhood. Whatever additional transportation supports are created for students, even if they were to miraculously work, are likely to be on the chopping block in future budget battles. The proposed location offers nothing in community institutional partnerships compared to what OB currently enjoys. How can the Home Depot, Savers, and even the VA hospital compare to the existing partnerships with Longwood Medical Area, Northeastern, Wentworth, and more? Finally, the proposed area is not welcoming to students of color. It is the polar opposite of the life-affirming location of the school currently, where all students are truly welcome and have access. OB is part of the future of an educationally equitable Boston. Please do not turn this diverse school into a state-of-the-art facility that is only used by Boston's most privileged families. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Betsy Yoshimura.
One. Okay. There we go. Hi. My name is Betsy Yoshimura, and I am a mother to a third grader at the Mario Umana Academy in East Boston, and I have an incoming K-1 student next year. I am an active member in my school's community and in the citywide parent council as well. And I just wanted to begin by sharing my personal belief that we should benefit from each other's strengths as allies with a shared goal of obtaining the best possible outcomes for all BPS students. I believe that nurturing a collaborative relationship between families and BPS is incredibly important. And it is in this spirit that I offer feedback on the decision to move the O'Brien to West Roxbury. I believe that the move will hurt our Black and people of color families and students and will reduce equity rather than increase it. Our goal must be to provide a high quality education in an equitable manner to all of our students. And moving the O'Brien will lead to decreasing the accessibility of that high quality education to so many students who are unable to commute to West Roxbury, whether due to quality of life, as the other mother from East Boston mentioned, you know, it would be, you'd need to wake up at 5 o'clock to make it to school on time, even if there is an East West Roxbury shuttle. And for so many reasons of history and systemic inequity, the move of the O'Brien seems to me to weigh the project heavily in disfavor. I hope that you are able to hear tonight's voices on this matter as a desire to be recognized as valued and important to you and as a vital part of your decision-making process. I hope that you will take this opportunity to reverse your decision to move the O'Brien to West Roxbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Chair Robinson, that concludes our speakers for general public comment.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan, and thank you to those of you who spoke this evening and shared your perspectives. Your testimony is very important to us. Our first action item this evening is grants for approval totaling $3,754,624. I'll now open it up to the committee for questions and comments. Are there any questions on the grants? No? Okay. Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the grants as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alkins, Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes. Excuse me, yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
The grants are approved unanimously.
Thank you. Our next action item is an in-kind donation from visit.org with an estimated value of $20,000. I'll now open it up to the committee for questions or comments. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the in-kind donation as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alkins, Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Our next action items are two memoranda of agreement between the Boston School Committee and the Boston Association of School Administrators and Supervisors, also known as BASIS. You will recall that Labor Relations Director Jeremiah Hassan presented these agreements to the committee at our June 7th meeting. I will now invite the superintendent to offer any final comments.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a reminder, our BASIS members, they really work across our district. Some are in positions of assistant principals, others are directors of operations, others serve centrally, such as like our regional operational leaders, and some in special education. So, really they are across the organization, invaluable to the organization. They really protect and support the health, the safety, the academic success of our students. I'm grateful for everything that they do, and I really appreciate their unions work with us for this contract. So I would ask that you vote in favor of the contract this evening.
Thank you. I will now open it up to the committee for any final questions or comments. Hearing none, we'll move forward. We will now take the committee will take three votes, one on each agreement and one on a supplemental appropriation request to support the cost of the agreements. I will now entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Boston Association of School Administrators and Supervisors and the Boston School Committee for the period September 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2022 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alkins, Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes,
The motion is approved unanimously.
thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Boston Association of School Administrators and Supervisors and the Boston School Committee for the period September 1, 2022 through August 31st, 2024 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alkins, Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yes.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes,
The motion is approved unanimously.
thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve a fiscal year 23 supplemental appropriation request to the Boston City Council in the amount of $1,705,142 to support the memorandum of agreement for successor collective bargaining agreement between the Boston Association of School Administrators and Supervisors in the Boston School Committee from 2022 to 2024 as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or objection to the motion? Ms. Sullivan, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Alkins, Mr. Cadet Hernandez,
Yeah.
Ms. Lopera,
Yes.
Ms. Polanco Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Tran, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes,
The motion is approved unanimously.
thank you. Before we conclude tonight's meeting, I wanted to have a brief discussion around the superintendent's evaluation process. Among the primary responsibilities of the Boston School Committee is the hiring, supervising, and evaluation of the superintendent. Superintendent Skipper hasn't had a full year with us. That date comes in October of 2023. But per her contract, the committee shall do an evaluation before the beginning of the next school year. There are 4 components of the evaluation. Goal that we agree on, a self-evaluation done by the superintendent, individual members' evaluations, summative assessment based on those individual evaluations, and then a vote on the assessment. The superintendent will provide the committee with her self-evaluation by the end of July in a special meeting we will call, and then the committee will do our evaluation of the superintendent before the next school year begins on August 30th. We will evaluate her against the 6 points from this past October in accordance with the guidance provided by DESE's framework, comprising 4 standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. The 6 goals the superintendent shared with us this past October that we will be using in her evaluation are prioritizing and accelerating academic performance, strengthening access to social emotional learning, streamlining operations and ensuring student safety, developing authentic family and community engagement practices, improving internal and external communication with families and the staff, increasing accountability for both the central office and our schools. I have asked Dr. Stephen Alkins to take the lead on the evaluation. He has graciously accepted. I also asked Vice Chair Michael O'Neill to support Dr. Alkins as he undertakes this process for the first time. Each member of the committee will write their own evaluation, and then Dr. Alkins and Mr. O'Neill will compile everything into one summative assessment. This will be shared with all committee members as well as discussed publicly to ensure all key aspects of the evaluation are incorporated prior to a final committee vote on the overall evaluation, which will happen at our first meeting in September after the summative assessment presentation by Dr. Alkins on August 30th. I want to thank them both for supporting this important part of our work. And I want to express my gratitude for the superintendent, who in less than a year really hit the ground running to move this district forward, always putting students at the center of every decision. As we close out our last meeting of the school year, it is important to acknowledge that there is a lot of work still to be done. I know the superintendent feels the same way. There's a lot of work we have done this year, but this is just the beginning. These past few years have been very difficult. Sorry, somebody tried to call me. The pandemic, multiple mayors, multiple superintendents, multiple school committee members, and so on. That is now mostly behind us, and we must keep moving forward, one step at a time, one day at a time. I see this summer as an opportunity for us all, members of this committee, BPS staff, families, community members, and students, to do our own self-reflection and evaluations. If we're going to move forward this district, if we're going to move this district forward, we all have to recognize the role and responsibilities we all have. This is not just up to one person, it's up to all of us. I'll now see if any members of the committee have questions about the evaluation process. Mr. Cardet Hernandez.
Thank you so much. And just because it's my first time at the rodeo, it means we do the evaluation after we get the self-evaluation, correct? Okay. Thank you so much. Just clarifying question.
Any other questions? Okay. If not, I want to thank you. And is there any new business? Ms. LaPera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I only see it fitting to end with new business for you all to engage in. I appreciate Mr. Mudd joining us at public comment today and wanted to raise the question, especially knowing that that vacancy does exist in leadership for our multilingual learners, when the body should expect to hear an update from the Office of Multilingual Learners and our English Language Learners Task Force as to what is being done and how we are planning to best support our students.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
Sure. So through Chair, can I just, Ms. LaPera, can you just clarify? I think I heard two things. One, when you will get an update as a body on the OMME office in terms of the hiring, but then also relative to the task force, the recommendations of the task force. Did I hear that right? Two-part?
Correct.
Okay, great. So I think as Dr. Chen had indicated earlier, we're in the kind of final stages of the interviews. And so I think if that does produce a final candidate, we will update the committee over the next couple of weeks. And if it doesn't, then we will update the committee as to what our next steps are. I think in terms of the task force, we're meeting with the task force. But this is something that was brought up today as to when they would present. And what Chair said at that meeting was that we would have that discussion with them and plan for the fall, probably the early fall, for them to be able to present their recommendations.
Thank you, Justin. I can't leave without expressing the enormity and the urgency that this population requires. And so I hope that it is early fall and that we are having conversations with them throughout the summer.
Yes.
Begin to start the year off on a solid foot. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to make note that we are hoping to have the presentations for both the SPED PAC and the OAG task force, as well as ELL task force early in the fall. Thank you. Mr. Cardet Hernandez.
Thank you. A few questions really quick for new business. One, I feel like I'm operating a little bit in the dark. And so after the intense public comment tonight around the OB move and the start of engagement there, do we have an engagement timeline and a plan for when this will come for a vote to this body? And if not, when can we anticipate that being released?
Through you, Chair. So it is a proposal, as the chair indicated at the start of public comment. There was a community meeting yesterday that Chief Stanislaus conducted, and through the Capital Planning Office, there'll be a series of, again, soliciting community feedback as part of that. Same thing with us thinking about how to engage. We'll work with Dr. Woods around staff and what that can look like over the summer. I think we're also thinking about potentially some visits down to the complex for people to be able to see, what's there and what's sort of envisioned. So this is coming together through capital planning right now as something that would happen somewhat during the summer and then certainly into the fall. In terms of the timing of the vote, I think that's something that we're starting to have conversation about, when that would be, when we would have the full proposal to be able to bring forward, if it seems that is the next step. So that would be sometime in mid to late fall.
Copy. Thank you. Maybe just for note and my own advocacy here, maybe moving forward, as I suspect we're going to continue to have conversations about moves and mergers and consolidations. I think what I was hearing tonight, and what I'm probably also experiencing even as a member, is like the uncertainty around like what happens. We make this big announcement, we have a press conference, and like we do the whole thing. And I don't know, I feel like in order to get on that stage, we need to like deliver folks a little bit more clarity around the timeline that we're going to be operating with. Like, even if it's just a proposal, is it, and we have to build that system, right? Like we will spend 9 weeks in community engagement process, which includes these 3 things, followed by a 3-week executive conversation. I'm making something up, right? Where we talk about if we still think it's a viable plan to move forward with a plan to bring something to a vote on this day. I think so much of what we're getting is like, no one knows how long we're even in this sort of purgatory for. And so one, I think it would just behoove us, and I said this with our last merger as well, like to be able to offer people clarity around the timeline up front, and maybe norming around the fact, like, we're not ready to make an announcement about anything, even a proposal, until we have clarity around the timeline for engagement. Like the proposal around space has to include the timeline around engagement. Like they have to be in tandem. And right now we're like not operating in that. And I understand why folks are so concerned and confused. So that's my hope, that's my advocacy. And we don't have any sort of say around when an announcement is made, but I just hope, for us as a body, like, I think we will be doing better by community if we lead with that type of detail in front. But thank you for that, and for, sort of a rough frame around what will happen next, and maybe we can deliver something more concretely to the community, so we can ease some of that tension and some of the fears that are currently clearly living. The second question I had was just, as sad as I am to see member Lorena Lopera leave us, I am also curious about our timeline for next steps. What happens as a body, and what should we anticipate moving forward?
We will begin the conversation with the mayor's office, who leads that search. And there are timelines that have to be followed in terms of how long when the announcement gets posted. I don't know when that day will be, and then they will move very quickly. We hope to have a member join us by the fall, if not sooner. And so we will, after Ms. LaPera has taken the first step by announcing this tonight, so then we will be moving forward with the city, and we will make that information available to all members to let you know what that timeline is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Last thing here, this is just a hope either for our next meeting or just in our continued communication. We spent a lot of time at the start of last year sort of playing catch up around vacancy numbers. And I guess I'm wondering if on a proactive level, can we start having conversations around anticipated vacancies? And then from retirements to folks who we know are leaving the system. I also know, like, based on other sort of agreements, people tell us last minute, all of those things, but keeping that sort of tally of like what we're anticipating, what we're filling, and then to then be able to look at that sort of third column around what currently is vacant. That would be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And thank you for a great school year together, Superintendent. It's been really lovely.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Is there anything else for new business before we conclude?
Madam Chair, if I may just finish this meeting by what we were saying at the beginning, which was thanking Member LaPera for her time and expertise on this committee, and even her thoughtfulness and questioning tonight. Talk about going strong right to the end, Ms. LaPera. And I should have mentioned at the beginning as well, your focus and expertise in certain areas, whether it was ELL as you were talking about tonight, but also your persistent and thoughtful probing on infrastructure issues and bringing that to the forefront in how we approach the Green New Deal, just as Member Cadet Hernandez was talking now about process around big changes that we need to make to our facilities. Had an impact on all of us. So oftentimes you'd hear us say, well, as Ms. LaPera is probably going to ask, let's talk about the building. So in your time in this committee, you have impacted all of us. And again, I just want to thank you for your time and your commitment to the students of Boston.
Thank you for that. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And with that, I want to say thank you. Have a wonderful summer, everyone, and good night.
Night, everyone.
Chair, should we adjourn?
Yes. Sorry. We had.
The meeting could go on forever.
Yes.
Let's make it official.
Yes, I'll now make a motion that we will adjourn the meeting. Ms. Sullivan?
Dr. Alkins?
So move.
Second.
I know, I'm ready to go.
Mr. Cadet Hernandez?
Yes. Good night.
Ms. LaPera?
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Polanco Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Lorena.
Mr. Tran? Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, thank you all.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes, thank you again, and have a wonderful summer, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.